atmosphere and restaurant quality food. When you go, tell them OC sent you. They'll take extra special care of you. And remember, they're doing another ticket giveaway. Patrick and Michelle, the owners and proprietors, are kind enough to share some of their Mammoth tickets with our listeners. When you go down to Big Willie's, enter your name in the raffle. They're going to draw the name out early February, so you have all month going down saying, hey, I heard about this on the Sean O'Connell show, and if they pull your name out of the fishbowl, 2 VIP tickets to a Utah Mammoth game. It's going to be awesome. Speaking of awesome Utah Mammoth games, headed up to the press conference yesterday at Rice-Eccles Stadium. You know what's fun to see? Ryan Smith in a Utah backdrop. It's fun to see that. I know that his reputation in town is like somewhat complicated for people. For me, it's not. He's a guy who's been incredibly successful, and he is now deploying that success however he sees fit, which is part of the American dream, ladies and gentlemen. But he even said in the post-press conference scrum, because he was asked about, well, did you ever think about bringing the Winter Classic, which is coming to Rice-Eccles Stadium next year, the third year of the Utah Hockey Club / Mammoth's existence. They're already getting the Winter Classic, a game against Colorado. It's going to be incredible. 51,000-plus fans for outdoor hockey. If it was on a day like today, it'd be absolutely perfect. A little bit of bluster, a little bit of cold, a little bit of overcast. Logan Cooley said he wants the ice to be choppy and gross. He wants it to be bad. These guys, these NHL guys love playing pond hockey, and they want it to be as close to that as possible when you're playing in the Winter Classic. We're going to get the special uniforms, all right? And it's an incredible event. Gary Bettman was in town for the press conference, and Ryan Smith was asked, hey, did you ever consider bringing this down to Provo? And he said, look, I do enough down there. This is my NIL donation for the University of Utah.
Like, so,
all right.
hey, so Utah fans, he's like, you can just stop with, I don't donate. I only donate to BYU. Okay. Jeez.
It's self-awareness from him being like, I know everyone talks about how much I give to BYU. This is my gift to you up here. And you know, that's fine. So
that's hilarious.
That'll be awesome. That'll be fun.
By the way, that press conference that you so incredibly, you did such a good job of recording on your phone up there while you're up there, is up on the website. So if you want to hear Gary Bettman's thoughts, you want to hear Ryan and Ashley Smith, Logan Cooley from the press conference, if you missed that, you can catch it on ESPN700sports.com. By the way, slight grievance with Jackie from TNT.
Yeah?
She was talking through the applause every time.
Maybe she's uncomfortable with silence.
And maybe it's just like, they're clapping. You
pause for effect.
Take a beat. She just kept talking. It's like no one can hear you because we're clapping for what you just said. Whatever. Anyway,
it's fine. So look, the Winter Classic coming to Salt Lake City. This is really, really cool. We've had an NBA All-Star Weekend twice. You're getting the NHL Winter Classic. You're getting another Olympics. We're going to get a Major League Baseball team probably before we have the Winter Olympics for the second time. We're becoming a big boy sports town. I don't know if we'll ever get an NFL franchise. I will always keep my fingers crossed that at some time in my lifetime that happens. But Salt Lake City is becoming a recognized, real, bona fide, valued sports town. And the Winter Classic is going to be one of those really, really great events. And it's happening so quickly. It's happening now. Say what you want about what Ryan Smith has meant for the Utah Jazz as an owner. The reputation, by the way, Adrian Denny told us that he anticipates a dominant stretch at some point for Daniil Boot. He said we'll get 5 goals in 5 games at some point. He scored another one. So maybe Adrian Denny knows something that we don't know.
Yeah, maybe you should tune in to Between the Pipes because he's always given us those kind of tidbits. That's amazing. Way to go, AD.
We got a really fun show lined up for you today. Gordy Chiesa in studio for a full hour. We'll talk all things NBA, all things basketball. We'll get his thoughts on the other big stories in the world of sports. Eric Weddle's going to join us at 1 o'clock. You know he's going to have thoughts about what's going on at the University of Utah. Shahan Jeyarajah at 1:30 to preview tonight's college football playoff semifinal. Huge game. Very much looking forward to that game in an odd context situation, right? Where you've got one of these teams playing, as I've mentioned several times this week, seemingly handicapped on their coaching staff for the biggest game of the year. It is the one thing that's good about it, if I want to say, is that it's Ole Miss, who we don't really care that much about. The bad thing about it is that it's making me want to root for Ole Miss instead of maintaining my firmly anti-SEC evil empire stance.
They feel like
an underdog.
Well, they feel like they've always, to me, felt like the likable team from the SEC, though, right? Because they're the team that hasn't really ever won anything. I think Mississippi State, shout out to the state of Mississippi. Mississippi State has kind of feels that way too. Or neither of those teams, they're like one of the only two programs in the SEC that have never really won anything. National championship. Ole Miss, I think, has won in SEC titles, but it's been a long time, so it feels okay to root for them, even if you're anti-SEC.
You know what I've appreciated about Ole Miss, even for a very long time, is you go back to the Saban days of Alabama. Ole Miss was the team that did, I think, the best job of not being intimidated by those Saban Alabama teams.
Well, that's talk about the Egg Bowl all you want. I feel like the real that's Shahan Jeyarajah. Shout out to Shahan, who's going to be on at 1:30. I think I told you this before. I like to go back to this when he talks about rivalries. There's human rivalries and there's football rivalries or sport rivalries. And the human rivalry is the Egg Bowl in Mississippi. But at least for the Ole Miss side of things, the football rivalry is Alabama. Is what it's felt like.
It's kind of like how all the teams hated USC.
Yeah,
in the Pac-12, right? USC's rival is Notre Dame,
and
kind of UCLA, sort of.
Yeah.
And every fan base, including Oregon, including Utah, Arizona State, every one of those guys is just like, you know what? I actually hate USC. So anyway, we're approaching the college football finish, and the good thing, the silver lining to be found with this playoff game tonight, where you're going to see one team with their hand tied behind their back trying to survive. It highlights how difficult this sports calendar is in the college football world, in a way that because it is an SEC team, I think that the powers that be are going to have to pay a little bit closer attention to it. They're going to watch this, and if there's any indication – now, look, the better sports story would be Ole Miss overcomes the handicap and wins and finds themselves in a national championship despite the fact that their head coach bailed, despite the fact that assistant coaches have been forced to bail, despite the fact that they're running on that, gas fumes type of situation from a leadership standpoint. That would be the better sports story. That's the one you make into the Disney movie. But if it's noticeable, oh, man, this team just doesn't look as sharp as prepared, like the game plan was quite as good, whatever, it's going to force people, decision makers, to realize, you know what, we can't be in a situation where you have this great season for a team. You have this great product of football being fielded all year long by a particular group of young men and their coaches, only to have, when the rubber meets the road, the most important part of the season, have that group be stripped apart, be decimated. And by the way, the same thing is true of even Oregon to a lesser extent, with guys going into the transfer portal. Dan Lanning, he's going to let one of his transfer portal running backs play because they're thin at running back. And he's already put his name in the transfer portal. Two of them have. One is injured. And he's saying, yeah, he's going to be available for the game. Does Dan Lanning want to do that? Well, probably not. Does he understand that that's going to be a necessity for his team to equip them as close to possible, as close to ideal as possible? Yeah. I mean, so I think these things are going to make, just like last year, Boise and Arizona State getting the first round bye made everyone be like, oh, we thought we had this structure right, but in practice, look what it has become. And this year, 2 group of 5 teams in and getting blown out, we thought we had it right, but in practice, look what it has become. I think we're going to get an adjustment on that, maybe even further expansion, certainly an alteration of the rules as to who gets in automatically. And I think the calendar will be a point of emphasis, if not an immediate change, an eventual change, because of situations like this, where even an SEC team, the last SEC team that could win them a national championship and bring them back to where they think they belong on the college football landscape, is handicapped. And the rest of the SEC, which is still as powerful as the Big Ten, is going to say, well, I mean, let's fix this so that the SEC can have a national championship. Because it's been, 4 seasons since they've had one?
Was it out? When was the last one? Oh, yeah, Georgia, 2022.
So 3 seasons.
3 seasons, yeah, because it was Georgia back-to-back, then it was Michigan and Ohio State.
So,
and I think we're gonna get a third straight Big Ten team that's a national champion, because I think the winner, I said it yesterday, I think the winner of Indiana, Oregon, both Big Ten teams, going to win the national championship. So we're going to have 3 straight. But hey, Ole Miss, the way they're playing, you can't truly count them out. The way Miami's playing, you can't count the ACC out. How wild would it be if Miami somehow comes out on top, national champions, with as much slander that we have levied towards the SEC or the ACC this year, and Miami, a 10 seed, barely getting in, ends up winning it all? They got a chance to. That'd be crazy.
Curt Cignetti, by the way, as you talk about Indiana as being a potential national champion, Curt Cignetti, who already signed a raise and an extension this year, is going to get another one. He's going to get another $1 million a year because there's all these NFL jobs. A full 1/3, is it? Or 1/4? I think it's a full 1/3 of the NFL has vacancies right now. McDaniel got fired. Harbaugh got fired. There were already 7 open.
Yeah, so as of yesterday, there were 6 open, right? But there were 7 teams that had contacted John Harbaugh.
Yeah, so one team who already had a coach.
And maybe that was
probably Miami.
Maybe that was Miami who made it official and fired Mike McDaniel today. So I think it's either 7 or 8, which would be close to a quarter of the NFL.
And probably most importantly, the Raiders have an opening, and the Raiders are going to most likely select Fernando Mendoza.
Yeah. Are you hearing that package deal thing? You were about to allude to it. Hey, Mendoza and Cignetti. Cignetti is absolutely the major general, like prison warden type college coach. He is not. That is not going to work in the NFL.
I don't know exactly the ins and outs. Right? Like, is he a dictator in that Indiana program? Because if he is, that doesn't work in the NFL.
No.
We've seen it over and over and over again. Right? Urban Meyer was the best example with any kind of local connection.
Yeah.
Everybody that played for Urban Meyer at the University of Utah, and most of the guys that played for him at Florida, and most of the guys that played for him at Ohio State, when they did podcasts, when you had private conversations, whatever, were just like, he is not going to be a good NFL coach. And he wasn't, because his style does not translate. I don't know that Cignetti's style will translate either to the NFL, but his agent doesn't have to care about that.
Absolutely not.
His agent just has to go,
get him an extra $1 million.
You know what? The Raiders really want Curt. They've already contacted me. They're going to draft Fernando Mendoza. They would really, really enjoy having continuity there. So if you want Curt Cignetti to stay in college football, which he always intended to do most likely, you better give him a little extra bump.
Yeah, that's good agenting. To leverage
what you should do.
For sure.
Speaking of good agenting, we got unfortunate announcements in regard to the Utah transfer portal after the show went final yesterday. Now, look, Utah did a great job. Also, yesterday you got the announcement that you're bringing in a couple of wide receiver talents. Pegan and Kyrie Scholes are coming. Utah State's best wide receiver. San Jose State's best wide receiver. They're going to be Utes. That's phenomenal. Jonnu Hall has extended his time at the University of Utah. I think that's a big one. I know that not everyone agrees with me. We had someone on the text line, 877-353-0700 yesterday, say, I don't think he's a good player. I think he's a great player. But these are the decisions you have to make as a coaching staff. According to Joe Coles, Jonnu Hall is going to be one of the highest paid linebackers in college football next year. I don't know how you determine that. I guess these agents call one another and talk to one another and brag about the deals that they're getting. I have a hard time believing that Jonnu is going to be one of the highest paid in the entire country, but I do want to see him get paid, and I do think he did get paid. And I know that people didn't like my hypothetical salaries, right? And they're just like, you don't have to pay that guy that much. Okay, go tell him that, and go tell his agent that, and go tell the University of Utah that, because J.J. Buchanan, who is in the transfer portal, jumped into the transfer portal, which none of us wanted to see. J.J. Buchanan is going to have options, ladies and gentlemen, and it's not outside the realm of possibility that he would come back to the University of Utah, but he's a guy whose offensive coordinator left. He played tight end last year for the Utes and wide receiver for the Utes. The wide receiver coach and the tight ends coach from the University of Utah last season are in Ann Arbor. I would be shocked if he doesn't end up in Ann Arbor. At the end of the day, what matters for Utah is, can you replace production? Can you remain net positive in the transfer portal? And we have another 8 days to figure out whether or not you remain net positive in the transfer portal. We don't know what it's actually going to look like at the end of the day. But Jonah Lea'ea in the transfer portal, I don't like that. Don Saunders in the transfer portal, I don't like that. J.J. Buchanan in the transfer portal, I don't like that. It doesn't mean you're going to end up net negative. But it just what it does tell you, seeing those guys kicking the tires at least on a transfer and getting offers and seeing where the interest is, you know that the biggest threat for all of this is Michigan. There are other teams in your conference. BYU and Michigan are your two biggest threats in the transfer portal, right? I've said it before. I will say it again. The portal giveth and it taketh away. You can't be overly upset about what you lose to the transfer portal when what you have gained from the transfer portal since it became a thing, and even before it was called the transfer portal, Utah football has been on the net positive side of that ledger and will do its darndest to remain so. And I have faith in this coaching staff, their recruiting abilities, etc., that they will remain on the positive side of things. Scooby Davis extended yesterday. Great corner, right? The best, his name's escaping me right now. It'll come back to me. All-American from Montana State, just won a national championship. Their corner had a visit yesterday at the University of Utah. Loved his time at the University of Utah. He's going to do his tour. He's going to go around. He's going to see what's out there. But he's also going to look at, man, look at what they have done in developing defensive backs. If I want to stay in the Western United States, what school has done a better job? What position coach has done a better job than Sharif Shah of putting guys into the league? There's some, let's be honest about it. There's some heavy hitters for the University of Utah that their names are currently in the transfer portal. Dallas Vakalahi in the transfer portal. Dallas Vakalahi is going to end up at the University of Utah, though. Like, there's all of these things where the knee-jerk, the panic reaction is natural but unnecessary. You got 8 days to figure it out. And the wide receiver room, even without J.J. Buchanan returning, Hunter Andrews, by the way, returning. If J.J. Buchanan doesn't come back, you've got a guy now who's his same size, who had roughly double his production coming down from Utah State. And yes, I will listen to the arguments that, well, he's a little bit older, so there's less upside there. Okay, sure, fine, if you want to say that. Oh, he was playing in the Mountain West Conference. He wasn't playing in the Big 12 Conference. All right, sure. But wide receiver is very much a plug-and-play position in most cases. So if what you're looking for is at least net neutral, losing a player as talented and as exciting and with as much upside as J.J. Buchanan, they've already done it. They've already checked the box. Wide receivers are easier to find than defensive tackles, so you're going to want to do your best to make sure you can get Lea'ea to come back, or that maybe they believe that this Samsula kid they got from Wyoming, who's got endless talent and motor, maybe they think that he can be that. Maybe. Utah loves upsizing position players. Samsula came to college football as a tight end. And Wyoming had the vision and the awareness to say, look, man, you could be like a decent tight end, or we could put 30 pounds on you, and that athleticism can translate to defensive line. We'll teach you the technique. Luther Ellis is going to teach that up, right? Would I like to see Samsula and Lea'ea and Vakalahi and Kaufusi and Pupu Sepulona? Of course. And here's the thing. There's a lot of folks that think that Jonah Lea'ea has serious interest at BYU. The recruiting pitch there is easy as pie. It's the easiest recruiting pitch you can find in order to retain someone who's at least exploring his possibilities. If you want to keep him away from BYU, you just say, call Keanu Tanavasa and ask him if he had a better season at BYU than he did when he was at the University of Utah. Ask him if he, as a player, had a better season. The answer is a clear and definitive no. That's not a knock on Sione Pua. That's not a knock on anyone down there at BYU. But I've made the point many, many times. We have very few examples, if any, of someone leaving this program and having it work out better for them individually. Did BYU have a better football season with Keanu Tanavasa as a captain down there at BYU than Utah's? Yeah, they played in the conference championship game. They won the rivalry game. They had fun in the Pop-Tarts Bowl.
People's National Champions Pop-Tarts Bowl.
It was all great, right? I'm not taking anything away from the Cougs. But Keanu Tanavasa did not increase his draft stock. He did not elevate himself as an individual player. If you want to, he might have a different story to tell about what it did for him, his marriage, his personal life, his spiritual life, whatever. If that's what you're into, sure. But when we're talking about the football equation here, and that's all you can really recruit to at the University of Utah right now, you just say, hey, if Michigan comes calling, I guess you got to listen to that pitch because it's Michigan. And they've done a good job with defensive linemen, pushing them into the NFL. But BYU ain't us. Because they're not. And if Jonah Lea'ea wants to make a decision to go to BYU instead of Utah as a defensive lineman, good luck to him. Because you're not going to get better than you would at Utah. You're not going to develop more successfully at BYU than you would at Utah. At Michigan, we don't know.
You would think, because you're not just talking about how Michigan traditionally has developed that position. You're talking now about how that coaching staff, we're not saying his name.
Yeah, he who shall not be named.
Yeah, that was yesterday was the last day.
Yesterday was the last time. We're going to give him the Voldemort
staff,
treatment. He shall not be named. That coaching staff.
That was here before. We know they have done a great job, too.
Sure.
So that's part of the equation, too. So I feel like, obviously, for obvious reasons, you're always going to feel bad, and you're going to be upset and frustrated as a fan in particular when you lose guys to your rival, and in this case BYU. But if you're losing them to that program that should not be named now, I feel like, yes, you're still going to feel bad about that, but you're like, well, we're just, unfortunately, we don't have the tradition they have, and he knows that coaching staff now really well, and he knows what they can do,
interestingly enough,
too.
he doesn't know the interior defensive line coach at that staff.
Good point.
And I don't know how you go to Luther Ellis and say, thanks for all the hard work you put into me. I got to go.
Yeah.
I don't know how you do that with Luther Ellis. You probably don't. You probably
do it while you're peeing your pants.
You probably send a text from like a burner phone. Just letting you know, because
tell your significant other, hey, will you send this to my coach, please?
Luther is going to end up as like one of the scariest old men. He's a middle-aged guy. He's like the scariest middle-aged guy you can find. He's going to be intimidating till he's 80.
Yeah, the most soft-spoken, polite, most intimidating old man, middle-aged man right now. There is. Yeah, absolutely. And if he doesn't intimidate you, he'll just call one of his many NFL standout sons and be like, hey, I got something. Someone has something to say about their future with Utah. I just wanted to, hey, Christian, hey, Jonah, hey, Caden. I wanted him to tell you this.
Well, this is a great question that came in from the text line before we get to a break, and Gordy Chase is already here in our Broadway studio. 1743, I love this question. Over the next 365 days, which ticket at Rice Eccles will cost more, the 2026 Holy War or the 2027 NHL Winter Classic? Which of those tickets is going to – what? That's a good question. I think the answer to the question will be the Holy War, because there are a lot more people that are emotionally invested in the Holy War, but I don't think the gap will be significant in any way. The Winter Classic is a standalone, once-in-a-lifetime style event that is, I mean, you can go to the Holy War next time, 2 years from now. You could, right? And people know that. So if you got $300 to spend on a ticket, it's going to be at Rice Eccles Stadium in 2026. If you're talking about your long-term sports fan experience, you might be like, well, I'll do it Winter Classic this year. I'll make sure I go to every other Holy War. But there's just so much emotion in that game. And who knows how much more emotional that's going to get, because BYU players could be coming to Utah. Utah players could be going to BYU. We know that ramps things up. It will be the first iteration of the Morgan Scally Utes against the Kalani Sitake Utes. And those guys have a lot of history and a close friendship and all that stuff. So I think I love the question, and we should monitor it. We'll keep a price tracker on the highest priced events at Rice Eccles Stadium. It's like Holy War, Winter Classic, Taylor Swift if she comes, but I don't think she's touring this year.
Brian Regan, which we have tickets to.
We do have Brian Regan tickets to give away.
On Valentine's Day, Brian Regan. That's also an honorable mention there.
You think Brian Regan could sell out Rice Eccles? Like, big-time comedians do stadium shows.
Yeah. Like Bargatze, I think, has done that kind of stuff.
Now, Nate Bargatze sold out 3 shows at the Delta Center in 2 days.
Yeah.
So
he'd probably sell out Rice Eccles.
He could sell out Rice Eccles. I mean, the math on that is about accurate, right?
Bargatze, why don't you come to Rice Eccles next time, huh? Yeah, definitely something to track. I wanted to see, you were talking about the passion, the intensity of the Holy War and how that might change, ramp up, or otherwise in the Morgan Scally era. I wonder if it'll ramp up for the reasons that Spence has been talking about, and how, unlike he who shall not be named, the Dark Lord who is at the program that shall not be named now.
We can say Michigan. Michigan's okay.
Well, that I'm not going to.
Okay.
He played at BYU. He has the tie to BYU. Morgan did not, right? He knows a lot of the guys on the coaching staff at BYU because they used to coach at Utah too with him. But I wonder if over time that intensity is going to ramp up, because it's going to be like, I don't have this desire to have BYU guys on my staff the way that the old coach did. And so that'll be interesting to track too.
Yeah, I don't foresee a situation in which Morgan makes it more vitriolic.
I think on purpose. Anyway.
I think it'll be more of a Lavelle, Ron McBride vibe.
Yeah.
Because like McBride didn't have any ties to BYU at all. Lavelle got a degree from the University of Utah, but
bet you didn't know that, Cougar fans.
But that's like, no one cares about that really.
Ancient history.
Those guys were great representatives of their individual universities who happened to be good friends, had a great relationship with one another. And the rivalry on the field between the fans, it was still as heated as ever, but the calming effect was brought to you by those two head coaches. That's how this rivalry is going to be with Morgan Scalley and Kalani Sitake in charge, right? Fans are going to hate each other. Players are going to hate each other. Transfer portal is going to make it worse as guys go back and forth from roster to roster. Morgan Scalley and Kalani Sitake and the other guys on that staff who all know each other so well are going to be like, I like that guy. This week I hate him, but we play pickleball together. It's going to be fine. Got to take a break. Gordy Chiesa's here in studio. We got a lot to talk about on the NBA front. And I'm actually Gordy likes hockey. I'm going to ask him about his plans for the upcoming Winter Classic at Rice Eccles Stadium. It's the Sean O'Connell Show, brought to you by Big Willie's at 1717 South Main. ESPN 700, 92.1 FM. Welcome back to the Sean O'Connell Show. Welcome in Gordy Chiesa, our NBA guru. Conversations with Gordy brought to you by our good friends at Aladdin Industries, your Utah Velux dealer. Utah Jazz in action tonight against the Fighting Cooper Flags of Dallas. Mavericks coming in for a 7 p.m. tip. Tickets are available as low as $13. I love that tracker on ESPN. Gordy Chiesa, welcome in. How are you, sir?
Sean, I'm doing fine. Thank you.
Let's start there. Dallas visiting Utah. I think everyone's mostly over the fact that you didn't get the star rookie that Dallas now has, but a chance to see him up close and personal, his team up close and personal.
Oh, very much. Cooper Flagg is going to be the Rookie of the Year with his former college teammate Con Knippel finishing second, and VJ Edgecombe should be third, and he is all advertised, and he's tremendous, unbelievable, talented guy. He's a generational ability, and what I love about him is that he's a two-way player. He plays both offense and defense. In transition, he's sensational with those long strides. He's got those ball skills, and what he does best is that he's able to play up in the air and be acrobatic, but to be under control and make a lot of really interesting, simple plays. And if I'm the Dallas Mavericks, he is absolutely the future. Here's some quick metrics with him. He's averaging 18.9 points per game, 6.5 rebounds, 4.2 assists, 1.2 blocks, shooting 47.8 from the field goal. But here's the one nemesis, Sean. He's only shooting 27.6 from threes. And so he's got to improve that. And he's a dynamic driver, velocity cutter, and most of all, Sean, he's a nasty dunker. Nasty.
We see these young guys come in, and obviously that's a big part of your game when you're young and you can elevate and you have a little bit of size. Later on in the career, and there's plenty of time between now and then for Cooper Flagg, later on in the career you can't play that elevated game and you have to adjust. Is he going to have to adjust, or is he already there?
He'll have to adjust. No, right now, let's not forget, he's only 19 years old. And him, the world is perfect. You know, the world's my oyster, to say the least. And that he's going to be able to be a high flyer for a long, long time, minus, God forbid, some serious injury. And over the period of time, he'll adjust like all the great leapers that are scorers and throughout their career. So Michael Jordan adjusted at age, we'll say, 30-something, and Kobe Bryant adjusted also at age 30-something, where they played. They still went airborne when they had to, but most of the time they were able to play the game. I call it gravity scoring, and he'll be good at it. But in the meantime, right now, Cooper Flagg is sensational. The Jazz beat for a reference point, the Jazz did beat the Mavericks the first time this year. That was a hellacious game back on recently on December 15th. The Jazz beat the Mavericks 140-133 in overtime, where Keontae George was sensational, and so was Larry Markkanen. And so it should be a great game tonight. Both teams are struggling, which is positive, and the Dallas Mavericks are, their record is 14-23 and 4-12 at home. Excuse me, on the road. And so the Jazz are coming off a tough loss last night in OKC. They probably got home last night around roughly 3 o'clock in the morning. So they'll be a little bit slow to start the game. The Mavericks were here last night, staying in the hotel. They'll be ready to roll.
SGA, by the way, in that one, 46 points, 6 rebounds, 6 assists. The defending MVP, not slowing down a lot this year. And it's not that the Jazz stars played bad, but you just can't keep up with somebody like that on a night like that.
Oh, very much. He was absolutely sensational. He was the reason why that the Thunder were able to hold off the Utah Jazz. And let's not forget, Sean, besides those 46 points and 42 minutes, he had no turnovers. So, Sean, the main guy everyone's trying to stop in the game. He has the pressure to make plays all the time. He makes no mental errors or physical errors. It was a brilliant performance, and that's why they're able to hold off the Jazz. Unfortunately for the Jazz, they played hard. They played connected, and they really took it right to the Thunder. And there's been so much talk about the Thunder that they're a dynasty. Do I award it to you that they're an elite team and could be NBA champions, but they're not a dynasty because it's so hard in this era because of these luxury tax and re-signing guys, and also the other guys are good. So remember now, the Thunder started out 24-1 this year. And that's what everybody's saying. Oh, they're a dynasty. They're going to be absolutely incredible.
What are we doing throwing that term around so easily? You win one championship and start a good regular season strong. Now you're a dynasty.
That's what happens. Again, it's social media, etc. So since then, they've been 7-6.
Yeah,
including last night's game where if Wood should, again, if Shea doesn't make that jump shot against good defense by Keontae George with that body lean / talent, then the Jazz win, and then we're going to say, oh, by the way, the Thunder have a losing record the last 13 games.
So, I mean, look, if you're Oklahoma City, you can't enjoy the idea that you went even into overtime. Yes, a victory, but you went into overtime against a Jazz team that is not supposed to be trying to win that much this year. And give me I know that for the Utah Jazz, it ends up being a loss, another learning opportunity. The silver lining in all these losses is you keep certain draft picks in your pocket, et cetera, et cetera. But give me the opposite perspective. OKC is a contending team. They could repeat as champions. They've got the MVP. You don't want to play extra basketball against a young team like this. Am I right?
Correct. You're exactly right. And so with that said, that the Jazz were highly motivated and bouncy, to say the least, and the Thunder, they were playing like it's middle of March where let's get to the playoffs. For the last 13 games. And it's new to them where suddenly everyone's coming at them with their A game. Before that, there were the team that was going after the opposition as far as trying to bite, fight, and claw to show that, hey guys, we can play right now. So now they're the ones that everybody is bringing all their things. So, for example, last night, the Jazz punched the Thunder in the face on the boards. 65 rebounds to 51. And that's led by the guy that we all love to always talk about, Yusuf Nurkic, the Bosnian beast, threw his body around the lane the whole time. He was hitting people. He started hitting everybody, including people in the front row, to start. And that's his game. You got to love him, the way he plays, and that he helps the Jazz. I call it, Sean, chaos in the lane. He fouls his own teammates sometimes, as far as going for the ball. But with that said, he scored 15 points and 15 rebounds, and until he got in foul trouble, that he did a good job of taking some of the play of Chet Holmgren. Yeah, Holmgren scored 23 points. I get it, but he goes after that. He was in foul trouble, and he already fouled out with 6 fouls. And with Yusuf Nurkic, let's say, Sean, he gets all worth his 6 fouls are all worthy. Is that it's not like a cheap foul. He's fouling you like to stop 2 points.
If you were coaching Chet Holmgren, would you still try to put more weight on that guy, or are we just accepting the fact that he's a slim reaper for the rest of his career?
I think he's a slim reaper the rest of his career, yeah. I mean, you're going to try to make him stronger as far as in his leg strength, but upper body, he's tall and slender, and he's agile. And so it's hard to do that. Some people are like that. And, again, I'm not a scientist or a doctor or a dietitian. I'm assuming that he's got a really a fun problem. Eats a lot of things and never gains weight.
Yeah.
That's a fun problem.
I wish I had that problem.
And that was Thurl Bailey. When we coach at Thurl Bailey, think about Thurl Bailey, even now at age 60, let me see, Thurl was born in 61. Okay, Thurl right now is 64 years young. His body's slender. And we used to say to Thurl, keep eating all these calories. It didn't matter. His body fat was like, I'm not exaggerating, like a 1%.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, he still looks great.
He looks great. No, so that's Chet Holmgren. Again, I'm not a nutritionist, so if I'm talking out of school, please, I'm going to stop. But just generally speaking, as a layman, that's what happens. But he's skilled. So what happens with Chet Holmgren type? Don't put him in positions where he has to show his lack of physicality. Put him in a position on the court where he can show his skill set of going around somebody up and over. Now, Yusuf Nurkic, he's not going to cooperate. He's going to try to make him have to have his lack of strength to play against Jokic in the lane, and he did most of the game. But then Jokic fouled out, and then Chen was able to roam the baseline free. And by the Jazz playing switch defense, Holmgren had an advantageous situation where they're asking Brent Sasabal to put a body on Chet Holmgren, where it's a length situation, and length beats what? Lack of or just moderate strength.
Gordy Chase is our guest here in studio. We've got him for another 45 minutes or so. Before we take a break, you and I have talked about this a lot when we're talking about a young Jazz team that is, they're in the situation they're in. There's not an expected playoff run. There's some portion of the fan base and maybe even the front office that wants to preserve draft picks and stuff. But these games, like the one tonight, you're going against another team that's kind of in that similar situation. They're building back. It's going to take a couple years for them. I don't know if the right way to say it is that they're on your level, but these games we've talked about being more important than when you're going up against OKC. As important as that is to test yourself against the best in the league, you learn a lot more when you're going up against someone who's on your same level. Are you progressing as fast as they're progressing? If they're going to be good in 3 years, can you stay ahead of that pace, et cetera? So how does the Jazz prove tonight that they're in the right spot there?
One, by respecting the opponent. The Jazz get in trouble, just generally speaking, early in the game when they usually are down, unfortunately. So they've got to start out with a much higher urgency rate as far as guarding. So the question is always, I always talk about this, Sean, is that Cooper Flagg is going to be in the Western Conference for over the next, hopefully, in their world, 15 years. So, which means that the Jazz have to find somebody to be able to defend him and slow him down. So last game he scored against the Jazz 42 points. And so they need someone like, say, Filipowski-type people to try to get in that game, and their sole purpose is to what? Stay in front of him and make him shoot a tough shot over them. So these games do matter. And also just as a standpoint right now, in the present tense today, Jazz have lost 5 games in a row. So, Sean, that's an awful feeling. You lose 5 games in a row. You lose in overtime last night. You get to your house at 3 o'clock this morning. It was a little bit snow wherever you live right now. There's some snow. And by the way, I'm back at the arena by 4:45 today to play another game. And so if we're going to be tired, let's be tired of what? Losing. I'm tired of losing. Sean, I lived that life for 36 years. And so I know what it's like, you're not sure what day it is right now. Oh, we're playing the Mavs tonight. Okay, let's win.
And then after the Mavs this weekend, you've got the Charlotte Hornets.
Right, another young team that's trying to be like the Jazz. So it's good. The Jazz have back-to-back games where players are going to challenge them, and the Jazz have good players also. Keontae George is going to get voted as some of the most improved players in the NBA. And so what they want to do is be the aggressor early, take the play right to them, and then defensively really try to lock down. Last point about this, quickly, is that they lost last night in overtime, Sean. They committed 20 turnovers. Just think about it. It'd be like in the NFL, Sean, having 3 interceptions and 2 fumbles in the red zone.
Yeah,
so
you're not going to win that game.
You're not going to win, even though you do play hard. And there's a lot of good things happening during the game. So you've got to not turn that ball over. You can't set illegal screens. You can't have offensive elbow fouls in the guy's face. It's a foul. And so those are the things why lesser teams lose, because they beat themselves.
All right, like I said, we got Gordy for plenty of time today. We'll take a quick one here. We'll come back. We'll zoom out a little bit, not just talking about the Jazz, but everything that's going on in the NBA. It's the Sean O'Connell Show on Utah's #1 sports talk, ESPN 700, 92.1 FM. Welcome back to the Sean O'Connell Show. Gordy Chiez is here in studio with us, brought to you by Aladdin Industries, your Utah Velux dealer. And look, we're going to jump back into the NBA, I promise. We got a short segment here, and Gordy, when we went to break, he said we have to talk about the stinking Jets. Gordy's a Jets fan. A curse that has followed you for decades now, Gordy.
60 years. I'm 75, so Sean, maybe earlier.
Well,
60,
you would think
60-something years.
You would think in those 6 decades that you had seen everything, that you had already experienced all the highs and the lows that being a sports fan can bring you. But 2025 brought us something that even you, with that long-standing fandom, have never seen from the New York Jets or from any team.
Yeah, so Joe and I were talking spontaneously about just certain teams and cultures. And it involves the NBA and also the NFL, definitely the NFL, which is a team sport. So last year, the New York Jets did not have an interception by any player on the field the whole season. I'll say it to you again. Not one interception by the Jets players, meaning the team, during the whole season. The last time it happened was 1933. So
they started tracking interceptions in the NFL in 1933, and never, ever, ever has a team gone through an entire season without accidentally recording an interception. A ball gets tipped, quarterback gets sapped, falls into a defensive lineman's lap, whatever. Never before has it happened that a team does not record an interception, and your Jets managed that today.
Correct. And so, yeah, even myself, I'm a crazy fan. So I know there's so many lovable Jazz fans, and I'm one of them, even though I worked for them for many years, is that's the beauty of being a fan, that you suffer. Like you're suffered throughout things. And the good part, though, when you suffer, there's always the ray of hope, and that makes yourself a fan. And that's what in Jazz basketball, there's definitely a ray of hope with the development of Keontae George and all the other young guys that the Jazz have, also Walton Clayton Jr., and it's everyone else in general. But in football right now, because this week is wild card weekend in the NFL, and there's so many amazing matchups. And Sean, I love the 49ers, so do you. And they're going to have a tough get also this weekend. And then the mother of all games is going to be, I'm assuming, the Packers and the Bears.
I looked it up just because I wanted to know. Was there a team in college football this year that didn't record any interceptions? Actually, a Utah Big 12 opponent was dead last in the country in how many interceptions? Only 2 for Cincinnati. But even when you expand, like the NFL's got 32 teams, whatever, even when you expand that to 136 teams, nobody manages, except for the Jets, to fail in getting an interception.
It's almost impossible. And I say, no, nothing's impossible. This is impossible. I can't describe the words right now. Because think about it. In every sport, you want to have defensive, we call them playmakers. So you're in the NFL, you're a D-back or a safety, early eyes. You break to the ball before it happens. You spy the quarterback. In basketball, it's the same thing. You break to the ball. You're around the ball. The guy makes a spin dribble, and you're a nail defensive player, which means what? You're right at the middle of the court. Guy makes a spin dribble. You're right there to pick his pocket. Early ice, coming down the floor. He's looking at a certain guy cutting, and you back up in the coverage, and you have your hands high. Most times when your hands are high, only good things happen.
All right, because we're off basketball for just a second, and I promise if you're listening, we're going to get back on basketball after we take a break. But the announcement came down yesterday. Ryan Smith, the NHL, the Utah Mammoth, they're bringing the outdoor game, the Winter Classic, to Rice-Eccles Stadium. This is the showcase event. Aside from the Stanley Cup playoffs, this is the NHL's premier thing. And in the third year of the franchise's existence, we get that because of the relationship that the Smith family has put together with the NHL, because of the fan support, because of the reputation that this franchise and its players have developed around the NHL. It's going to be amazing. Tell me what it means, Gordy. You've been around pro sports for the longest, and when your city, your team, gets to host one of these events, what does it do?
It really uplifts the whole community, and it connects the NHL with Salt Lake City being a major player in it. And outdoor, there's nothing like it. Sean, I believe they played recently at Fenway Park.
They've done it at Fenway.
Yeah.
They did the one this year was in Miami. They did it like in the tropics at the Marlins Stadium. Yeah, they let the Panthers play outdoors, and I mean somehow managed to keep the ice frozen.
And also, what it does is that it's like old school, Sean. It's like the Canadians, Canadians and the Flying Finns, as far as all those incredible athletes that are skaters and scorers in the NHL. It'll be here. It's going to be happening, absolutely. And I'm looking forward to it. Sean, I hope you and I can go together.
Let's do it, Gordy. The NBA has played showcase outdoor games. Could something like this be successful in the NBA? I mean, there's all these iconic parks. I don't know how you turn a real NBA game into like a Rucker Park event or something like that. But, we've seen college basketball games played on aircraft carriers and things like that. Could the NBA embrace this as like a special event once a year type thing?
Yes, the answer is yes, they could. But it have to be obviously in warmer weather. And they had played some they played some games outdoors though, Sean, in preseason in Palm Springs.
Yeah, the Indian Wells Tennis Garden.
Exactly right. They have.
They did that. The Phoenix Suns hosted 3 preseason games at Indian Wells in 2008, 2009, 2010. And the WNBA has played 1 outdoor regular season game back in 2008. In 1972, the first NBA outdoor game was a preseason matchup. They did it in Puerto Rico, Phoenix Suns, Milwaukee Bucks. Do you remember that?
I don't know, but I'm sure it happened. So one time I coached in for the Jazz in a summer league game in Portland in an outdoor court. That we played an outdoor game. And that was the game I remember mostly about it. We won the game, and rookie Blue Edwards got into a fight during the game, so it was a mayhem. So our rookie, it was back in 1990, Blue Edwards got into a fight with Dražen Petrovic.
Oh, wow.
Who got into a fight with him, and it was a mayhem, and it was outdoor. It was an outdoor court. It was like a festival in Portland, and so we had to break up a fight that was outdoors.
Now, one of the things that the NHL players seem to embrace and like, and the fans as well, about this game is the conditions are strange, a little bit ugly sometimes. Logan Cooley was up at the press conference yesterday, and he actually said he wanted it to be bad ice. He wanted it to be like rough ice and slushy and things like that, because a lot of these guys came up skating on like less than ideal, your backyard, your pond, your local park, that kind of a thing. And there's nostalgia to it. Now, you wouldn't want to do it every single game, but why not for a game? In the NBA, obviously, an outdoor game would present a lot of those same complications. A little bit of rain on a hardwood floor, disastrous. Too slippery, too crazy. If you're playing on blacktop, maybe not as big of a deal with things like that. So would NBA players, for one game a year, would they embrace the less than ideal conditions? I mean, we've seen all these things where guys are like, Steph Curry dribbles around the floor to make sure there's no dead spots and stuff like that. They're used to perfection. Would they embrace for one day something outside of perfection?
No. Because of the players' union.
Sure.
That's the reason why.
Yeah.
And when you're paying Victor Wembanyama $100 million eventually per year, you don't want to have that risk because you're playing on blacktop.
Sure.
So that's the reason why. It'd be highly unlikely as far as a regular season game.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Unfortunately. But in NHL, it's all part of it. And the NFL playing outdoors is absolutely playing in cold weather. Buffalo Bills, they do it all the time. Remember, it starts snowing in Buffalo in July.
Actually, the very last event that the PFL did before I became part of the PFL was an outdoor venue, like down in South Florida. And it was so muggy and so rainy that like the canvas was slippery, and it was a massive hazard for guys. This is before the new ownership took over, and the organization became what it is now, the one that I'm working for. And people were like, I mean, it's an apocryphal story. Like the guys that were there, the announcers that were there were just like, it was ridiculous because a little rain on a canvas, fine. A little rain on the plastic logos that cover the canvas, and all of a sudden it's a slip and slide, and you got guys in there trying to fight each other, losing their footing and stuff. So, yeah, I love the outdoor events. I really do. Typical indoor sports being played outdoors, awesome, but it can get crazy. James, you're a St. George guy. We did some fights, some local fights. I was cornering one of my buddies out at what's the reservoir that's out in Washington County?
Sand Hollow.
Sand Hollow.
Yeah.
We did some fights out there at Sand Hollow, like on the shore of Sand Hollow.
Probably looked pretty cool. Yeah.
Looked amazing. Now, Sand Hollow is aptly named. There's sand everywhere down there. This beautiful coral-colored sand, right?
Yeah.
That stuff is great until it's windy and it's blowing into a cage and blowing into the eyes of the fight teams. It was windy, and people, legitimately like a windstorm whipping up sand and making the canvas all gritty and stuff. So,
oh, man.
So, look, NHL players, they kind of want it that way because it's already cold and icy and whatever. But in the NBA, I don't think we're going to get it.
Well, and Gordy brings up a good point about NFL, too, and football fans love the sloppy once or twice a year, right? Especially the Ice Bowl type playoff game. Let's do it. NBA, a little too much perfectionist for that sport.
I'm actually really fascinated by the higher level you get to in sport, the less willing you are to deal with some of the variables in a lot of cases. Like I believe Gordy when he says, no, the NBA is not going to do that. They're not going to play even a single blacktop game, whatever. I mean, European soccer players look at what goes on in the MLS where guys have to play half their games on turf, and they're like, absolutely not. No shot I would ever play high-level soccer, professional soccer, World Cup soccer on a turf field. Like, to them, it is sacrilegious. Never mind the fact like that, people think that certain injuries are related to certain turf conditions and things like that. But high level guys, they're just like, no, I won't do that. In the NFL, you're starting to hear a lot more of this. Ban the turf fields. Every time someone tears an ACL or hurts an Achilles or whatever, you get 10 former players taking to their Twitter and say, get rid of turf fields. This is a multi-billion-dollar industry. Make them all grass. And then, of course, when the grass is bad, then they're mad that it's not a turf field. But anyway, it's really interesting how playoff surfaces, playing surfaces matter, except NHL players, for one game, they want to play outdoors, and they want it to be a little bit ugly. Winter Classic is coming to Utah. We got to get back into the NBA discussion. Gordy Chiesa is here. He's got his list still to come. Plenty left to talk about with our resident NBA guru, Gordy. It's the Sean O'Connell Show on ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. Sean O'Connell Show on ESPN 792.1 FM. Aladdin Industries brings us Gordy Chiesa. He's here with us for an hour today. We got about 20 more minutes with Gordy, then we'll get to the Daily Dump. A wild potpourri of stories, including an NFL conspiracy theory in 19 minutes. I'm very much looking forward to this because it involves my Niners. Gordy, there was a trade yesterday in the NBA, and not an insignificant one. Spence Checketts was joking that for the first time ever, someone listed their preferred trade destination as the Washington Wizards because that's where Trae Young wanted to be, and that's what happened.
Yeah, very much. Yesterday, for the listeners, to reinforce things, that Trae Young, who is an all-star player drafted by the Atlanta Hawks, his original team, was traded to the Washington Wizards where he sorted out. And what that does, it gives the Wizards absolutely a scoring point guard that can also assist, and he wants to be there in Washington, and his contract is not modest, but it's certainty. It's this year plus next year. So even if it doesn't work out for the Wizards, is that they know that they only have him for basically a year and 3/4. So that was part of it. And that what makes it so interesting to trade is that they're both teams in the same division. So it's really interesting that both teams in the same division made a trade. The Wizards started out really unbelievable slow. They started out 3-20, and now the last 12 games are 7-5. And so the Wizards is that they've had 7 straight losing seasons. So since from 2018, 2025, they've had a losing seasons. So they know that they've got to try to do something to improve, at least show the fan base that they're getting better. That's part of it. That's the reason why I did that. Now, from the Atlanta Hawks' point of view, it wasn't working out with Trae Young. They had him there. It wasn't his contract. They've been up and down as far as we love him, we don't like him. They moved him on. So now they get CJ McCollum on a 1-year contract. He makes $30.6 million. He's a 20-point scorer, age 34, 13th season in the NBA. Again, there's certainty that probably he won't be there after this season. So they get his money for next year as far as a do-over. But they did add Corey Kesper, former Gonzaga player, 39.5% from threes. His contract, again, is modest. It's a middle of his contract, 4 years, $54 million. So it's roughly $12, $13 million a year. So it's doable. Now, from the Hawks' point of view, they haven't made the playoffs in 2 years since 2023, and that they have a cast of young talented performers, and they're saying, without saying it, that they want to move on from Trae Young because now their new star player is Jalen Johnson, who's very good, who should be voted the most improved player in the NBA this year, and Dyson Daniels, Zachary Richardson, they have a lot of other young players, former Jazzman, Nicole Alexander Walker. And so they did that because they think that they have other young, talented people that they want to showcase as they go forward. So the trade makes sense for both teams. Now, what about here's some other guys that could be in the trading as far as, and the deadline, remember now, is February 5th. So it's roughly a month from now. Here's some guys that also could be traded. From the Warriors, Jonathan Kuminga. From the Nets, Michael Porter Jr. From the Kings, Zach LaVine. From the Bucks, former Utah player Kyle Kuzma. Playing tonight in Delta Center, Klay Thompson from the Mavs. Nick Clayton from the Nets. Daniel Gafford playing tonight, Delta Center from the Mavs. Nikola Vucevic from the Bulls could be traded. Anthony Davis, yes, could be traded to an elite team, possibly. Also, in Jazz basketball, it's possible, Sean, the Jazz are trying to make a trade, future cast out, involving Kyle Anderson, George Niang. Last 2 names I'm going to mention. Everybody wants Clint Capella. If I'm the Boston Celtics, they've overachieved. There's no Jason Tatum. They have no centers. If I'm the Celtics, I'm trying to get at my team Clint Capella, who's on a Houston Rockets right now, playing behind Şagun and playing behind Steven Adams. He hardly plays, but on the Celtics he would play. And the last name is going to be Jeremiah Grant from the Portland Trail Blazers. These guys are all in play as far as either moving their contracts or teams want them to come off the bench and a few guys as far as starting.
Giannis's name is always involved with trade rumors, and he was asked about it. He said, "I would never demand a trade. It's not my nature. I'm not the one in charge." His comments reflect a really interesting, I would say almost refreshing mindset. And he was like, my job is to play basketball. I'm an employee. Do you believe Giannis when he says, "I would never demand a trade"?
No. No, his agent is, though.
Sure.
Yeah, so Giannis saying the right things. I get it, which I understand, and that he respects the process. But his agent, your job as an agent is to do what's best for my client. Giannis is an elite player. He gets exposed in the playoffs by his lack of shooting, not his scoring. I know he's an average 33 a game. I get it. 11 rebounds. I understand it. And get a lot of assists. But when it's crunch time, showing he can't make a foul shot historically, and the defense backs off him and dares him to shoot that shot. Here's Giannis's contract. This year, $54.1 million. Next year, $58.4, $27, $28, $62.7 million. So they've got to find a team or trading partners, teams, to fit his contract in. So it's got to be, you've got to move like other star players to involve. So it's unlikely. Last point about that. In a trading deadline, everybody's talking, but only 1/3 of the teams are what? Actively trading. The week of the NBA draft, in the third week of June, everyone's trying to trade. Everybody's trying to trade up in the draft, which involves players presently on your roster. And then July 1st, the trade could be as far as go through actively after that. So right now, it's only 1/3 of the teams are trying to trade.
In general, did you I know like is such a simple word for it, but did you like in-season trades when you were coaching?
No, I don't, because it really uproots you as far as the player, but also as far as your team. Is that generally speaking, the better teams don't make in-season trades. They don't. They might add a player where a guy's last year of his contract and he has a buyout option, and the agent is very powerful, and suddenly that team has a roster spot purposely. And so that's the reason why that teams do that, where they wait, the better teams wait until somebody has an opening roster spot. So, example, here's some of the teams right now, Sean, have an open roster spot. And most of them are playoff teams. Atlanta, Boston, Cleveland, Miami, New York, Orlando, Philadelphia, Toronto in the East. In the West, Denver, Houston, Clippers, Lakers, Minnesota, and Phoenix. Meaning what? That those teams have an open roster spot, only 14 under contract, because they know that somebody might be out there. They're looking at certain players, the last year of their contract, and that are out there. So, for example, it's possible, Sean, that C.J. McCollum got traded yesterday to Atlanta Hawks, but his last year of his contract's up, and that his agent might ask them, the Atlanta Hawks, please have a buyout of my client, because he can get a better deal by a team that needs a point guard dramatically, because someone just got hurt this last month. So in the NBA, Sean, there's so many moving parts.
I can't imagine how difficult it is to monitor who's available, who you want to be available, your own roster. I guess that's why the GMs make the big bucks.
And also, but more importantly, besides that, is that it's the pro personnel people, that their sole job is to monitor that and be ahead of the game. As I always say, don't tell me when someone's good after they're good. Tell me why a guy's going to be good on your team. And the reason why is that it's a fit. Often players are on the wrong team. So Corey Kispert, for example, from Gonzaga, he's a good shooter, that he's limited as far as his ball skills, but if you give him a screen, he can make an open jump shot. And defensively, even though he's a half step slow, he does try to compete. And so on a team that executes as far as offensively, he's a better fit. And with the Atlanta Hawks, they try to execute. The Atlanta Hawks, for example, Sean, are first in the NBA in assists. So that tells you they move the ball. And in Jazz basketball, the Jazz are second in assists in the NBA. Can you imagine if the Jazz can correct some of those turnovers, because the Jazz players are pass happy, led by Keontae George and the backup guard as far as Isaiah Collier. So the Jazz are pointing in the right direction. They've got to correct it as far as what they're trying to do. Here's the last point about trades. Remember, these human beings. So everyone out there saying, I don't feel sorry. When a guy makes $30 million a year, I don't feel sorry for him. I wish I could be traded and make $30 million. However, here's what happens, is that these human beings, so now here's the question that all NBA players ask. Will I fit in? Yep. Where do I live, Sean? I live in a hotel half a year on the road. Now I'm going from Atlanta to Washington, D.C. I'm going to live in a hotel now. My young children, my second grader and my first grader now are going to be behind right now. I'm going to miss them, and now different things. Also, I'm leaving some really good friends on this team who'll be my new best friend on the new team, and that's why it's so important, leadership. So we always talk about when we did make a few in-season trades, the leaders step up, and make the people that you traded to your team, make them feel what? Comfortable and at home.
What's the list today, Gordy?
My list today, Sean, there's so much talk about people sitting out. Sean, this list is a powerful list of players that play consecutive games. The all-time list. Here we go.
Oh, wow.
Baker's dozen of NBA players with the most consecutive games played. Most consecutive games played. Baker's dozen, which we know means what? 13. Because I know, Sean, you love a dozen plus one having a crawler on the side. I know that. You love that. All these guys are Iron Men. What are some attributes of consecutive games played? Strong physicality. 2, mentally focused. 3, they're team-driven. Oh, they're not feeling well with it, but it's possibly a sickness, but they drive through it. 4, they make more gravity plays than airborne. And Sean, you and I talked about it earlier today about players adjusting. They play more games on the ground than in the air. And the last point about this is luck. You've got to be lucky as far as not having a major injury during the streak. Here we go. Number 13 all time, most consecutive games played. He's ironically, Sean, he right now is a sports agent. B.J. Armstrong played in 577 games. Number 12, former Jazzman. I coached this guy for half a season. James Donaldson played in 586 consecutive games. Number 11, he plays right now in the NBA. He's never missed an NBA game in 8 seasons right now. He plays for the New York Knicks right now. Mikal Bridges, 11th all-time, most games ever played consecutively with 592. Number 9, Jack Twyman and John Stockton. They both played in 609 straight games. And with John Stockton, he only missed 22 games in a brilliant 19-year career. So 609. Number 8, this is Sean. This is most underrated of all of them. Former Utes Andre Miller is 8th all-time in most consecutive games played. Wow. Andre played in 632 games. And think about his games, Sean. It was on the ground. He was a gravity player. Number 7, his nickname was the Horse, Harry the Horse Gallatin. He played with Knickerbockers in the 1950s and 60s. He played in 682 games. Number 6, this man always was fighting in a game. He always was a nemesis both on his team and the opposition. Bill Laimbeer is 6th all-time. He played in 685 consecutive games. Number 5, Dolph Schayes, 706. Number 4, last night's Jazz game against the Thunder, he was the voice, the analyst of the Thunder, Michael Cage, played in 736 consecutive games. Number 3, this guy was a former teammate of Jerry Sloan with the Washington, at that time, Bullets. When Jerry Sloan was a rookie, this guy was his last year in the NBA. Johnny Red Kerr played in 844 games. Also, he was the first ever coach of the Phoenix Suns, the expansion team. Number 2, all-time, Randy Smith. He played for the Buffalo Braves. We came also the L.A. Clippers. He played in 906 games, and the number one player of all time to play in consecutive NBA games is A.C. Green with 1,192. Quick note. What about Ron Boone, the Jazz analyst presently right now? He's a friend of all of ours. Ron Boone had a streak of 1,041 consecutive games, including 662 in the ABA and 379 games in the NBA.
Wow.
That's my list. But, Sean, here's the last one, baseball.
Oh, yeah.
Cal Ripken.
This is one of those sports records that's never going to be broken.
Right. It'll never be broken. They say, what are you talking about? Here's the metrics. Cal Ripken played in 2,632 consecutive baseball games. Let's put it from a calendar. From May 30th, 1982 through September 19th, 1998, he played in 2,632 consecutive games. So A.C. Green and Cal Ripken, and in football, Sean, it's basically in football, as far as positional right now, it's Brent Favre.
There's a bunch of specialists.
A punter.
Yeah. There's a couple of long snappers, actually active long snappers that are top 5. Brett Favre played in 299 games. And Jim Marshall, one of the members of the Purple People Eaters, he played 282 games straight. That is insane for a quarterback, obviously, and for a defensive lineman to get 282. That's pretty wild.
Absolutely. And just think about basketball also, Sean, the wear and tear on your body. So many games in the NBA. So with A.C. Green doing that with 1,192. And again, John Stockton. So mention about John. So even though John had so many different streaks going for him, but he only missed 22 games in 19 seasons. So which meant that 17 times during his career, he played in every single game in the season. And he was a two-way player. And it might never happen again as far as that. So Mikal Bridges presently, he's the right now the guy. He's played in 592 consecutive games for both the Phoenix Suns and the New York Knicks, and he's never and also the Brooklyn Nets. He's never missed a game so far. Impressive. Sean, how about you? Your career, you've never missed a broadcast so far. I love it. and also James Peterson. James Peterson has never missed a broadcast in his illustrious career here on ESPN 700. I myself, I'm a slacker. I miss often games.
That's not true, Gordy. Gordy's a man. Love talking to you. Thank you for the basketball education once again. Thanks for coming into studio as well.
Thanks, Sean. Peace out.
That's Gordy Chiesa. Up next is the Daily Dump, brought to you by Valley Plumbing. Look for the truck with the duck. I've got an NFL conspiracy theory you're going to want to hear, especially if you're a Niners fan. It's Utah's number one sports talk, ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. Welcome to the Sean O'Connell Show. Excuse me. Daily Dump brought to you by our friends over at Valley Plumbing. Look for the truck with the duck for your plumbing, drain cleaning, and now HVAC needs. Tell them OC sent you. Take advantage of the incredible workmanship on your plumbing and on your ventilation systems. One of the greatest questions in sports is how do you avoid injuries? Because nothing can ruin a season faster than important players getting injured. Doesn't matter what sport we're talking about. Individual sports, certainly team sports. How do you stop injuries or at least reduce the risk of injuries in order to maximize potential? We asked this question for Utah for 2 straight seasons. Stanford football went about 4 years in a row at the tail end of the David Shaw era where it was just bad luck. Like, is there something in the water? Do we need to fire our strength and conditioning coach? What is happening here? The San Francisco 49ers have been plagued by injuries. This year, somehow they have overcome the rash of injuries, again, to their very best players, and they're in the playoffs. So maybe people naturally would like take less of a look at things, but I love myself a good conspiracy theory, and this is one that I'm going to be paying close attention to moving forward. So the San Francisco 49ers have a practice field that's like not quite immediately adjacent to, but within walking distance of Levi's Stadium. Down there in Santa Clara, it ain't no candlestick, okay? But it's a good stadium. It's a modern stadium. Players are starting to wonder. Conspiracists are starting to wonder. Folks around the team are starting to wonder if there's any credence to a particular report out there that the San Francisco 49ers' decade-long injury epidemic is not bad luck. It is not bad turf. It is not Kyle Shanahan practicing too hard. It is chronic electromagnetic field exposure, EMF exposure, because there's a massive electrical substation next to the team's practice facility. And apparently this is something that you can go measure. Like you take a little Geiger counter thing to measure the electromagnetic waves ambient in our atmosphere. The closer you get to something like a large electromagnetic generator, you're going to have more of these midichlorians in the atmosphere, you know?
Yeah, midichlorians, yeah.
See that, Star Wars?
The Force. Use it.
And the assertion in this research done by a guy named Peter Cowan is that if you're constantly exposed to high electromagnetic forces out of normal, well, then the connective tissues in your body can be affected by that. Specifically, collagen breaks down under constant exposure to EMF, and that would cause more tendon and ligament injuries than is normal.
Oh, my goodness.
So these players are like, wait, hold on a second. According to this research, the levels of electromagnetic exposure on the 49ers practice field, even the farthest reach from this substation, are 10 times normal. So if that's where you're practicing, if you're practicing in a radioactive field and you get a little radiation poisoning, this guy's like, why are we surprised by this? So now players are starting, like an injured offensive lineman who's like a dude way down the roster. No one's ever even going to know his name. He's never going to get a start. He's like, no, dude, that is the reason. You can hear the buzzing from this electromagnetic field. You can hear this substation churning while we're on the other side of the fence practicing. And now there's some concern, not among the entire organization, but at least with some players that they're like, wait, is this a contributing factor?
Is it the turf field or is it the EMF? What's the biggest cause of injury in the NFL?
I mean, look, it sounds like a little crackpotish.
It does.
Until you're like, well, hold on a second. If it's measurable, And if we know that prolonged exposure to electromagnetic fields is not good for human tissues, which, by the way, we do know, because you'll notice like the massive distribution lines, even here in the Salt Lake Valley, these huge power lines, right? There's this crazy amount of voltage running through them and stuff. You know what they don't build under those things for the most part? Houses. Now, there's multiple reasons for that. They want to have easy access to them for maintenance, repairs, and things like that. But it's not good for you to be exposed to that stuff all the time, to X-rays, to radio waves. Like, too much of anything is a bad thing, right? So there's a reason they put that lead vest on you when they do the X-rays on your teeth at the dentist. We know that invisible forces do have effects on human tissues. I'm not saying that this is the reason that the San Francisco 49ers have had bad injury luck, but I am saying that it might be worth looking into if we're talking about a multi-billion-dollar industry. And if you're the 49ers ownership, I mean, you're sinking this season alone, you're sinking like $100 million into players that are not playing right now. Between Fred Warner's contract and Bosa's contract and the time that Brock Purdy missed and all that stuff.
Kittle missed a lot of time.
Kittle missed some
time. They just re-upped him.
Trent Williams got hurt for, thankfully, not for a long term. So it's like, again, people get hurt playing football, okay? You're not ever going to be able to prevent that. But if there's a way that you can not allow the collagen in people's bodies to break down because of where your practice facility is, you're probably going to do that as an NFL owner.
So, in other news, the magnets also fall off the fridge nearby this. It sounds season 2 Stranger Things to me here. Hey, you got this giant magnet close by. Must be Rush, or was that season 3? Must be Russians doing some stuff under the mall here. No, it sounds sci-fi-ish, but it's not completely without merit. Like you are right. EMF, X-ray, all that stuff, those invisible forces can have negative effects on your body. It's a wild thing to point to say, hey, that's why we're injured, though. It just feels wild.
And look, I understand why people do it, because when Utah was going through their rash of injuries,
how close are they to an EMF?
The coaching staff would be like, look, we have looked at everything. We have done the research. We have done the science. Nutrition.
The X-rays coming from the Huntsman Hospital.
You don't know.
I'm sure they looked everywhere. Hey, what buildings are we close to besides our own facility?
I watched a documentary on an airplane about this community, mostly Native American community. I can't remember what state it was in, where they just suddenly stopped having boys. All the babies born were girls. And they were just like, what the heck? There was like a 6-year span where not a single boy was born. And they're like, there must be something going on. There must be
dozens, if not hundreds of babies in that 6-year span. And only girls. And
they were like, we got to look into this. And of course, it ended up being a huge problematic thing. The long story short was that a pharmaceutical company had a plant nearby, and there were some tailings rolling off into their water that can't be filtered out.
Oh, geez.
And these hormone disrupting chemicals were in their drinking water at a molecular level that you couldn't just like filter out with your Brita pitcher.
Yeah.
And it was causing like all the male sperm to die. So they were like, we don't have any boys. Like, if you want to have a boy child, you have to move out of this community. Isn't that nuts?
That is literally something in the water.
Environmental factors do play a part in like overall health. And if you're next to something all day, every day, we learned too late and the wrong way that working with lead was bad for people, that working with mercury back in the day was bad for people. That
the popcorn ceiling has too much asbestos.
Yeah, that the asbestos situation. Now, have you ever done this? Have you ever seen someone do asbestos mitigation on a house? We remodeled our house, and there was asbestos in our house, and it's like a specialized process. People, they have to come in these hazmat suits. You can't just throw it in the trash. You have to handle everything a little bit different. So, like, look, is it pure science? We know for sure. I don't know. That's above my pay grade. But it's absolutely worth looking at whatever it is. If your team, you're very expensive, very high profile, very meaningful to your community team, is experiencing a higher rate of injury than is normal, you should be looking at everything that might be a contributing factor.
Absolutely, and especially if you're like the Niners and you uniquely practice very close to a substation like that, I doubt there's really – you could look at – remember we were talking with Gordy about the Jets not having any interceptions, their defense not getting any interceptions this year. It's like
that's because your water comes from the East River.
Yeah, you could probably look at, and you said I looked at the college football to see if there was any team that didn't, and you couldn't even find a college football team, FCS or FBS, do that. So you could probably look at every college football team, every NFL team, and you might not find another one that practices this closely to a substation like that. So very unique thing.
Every single person listening right now who remembers like playing Little League baseball next to one of these electrical substations is like, that's why I didn't go pro.
Yeah, exactly. There's one. Come to think of it, Santa Clara. There's a Little League baseball field right next to a little power station.
You don't know, James.
Yeah,
you don't know.
First of all, that's why I only played right field for the last 2 innings.
There it is.
And that's why I didn't make it any farther than that.
Never mind that the other kids were good. That's why I stunk. Yeah.
Hey, I got a game ball one time. It was my turn. All right.
What can I blame my football failures on? I got to find something.
What's close to Jordan High?
Yeah, Jordan High.
The track isn't the tracks are close to it.
Tracks runs right by.
What's tracks doing? What's tracks submitting?
Oh, electromagnetic EMF, we call it. There's EMF fields around those tracks trains and the lines that they run on.
They're carrying them. They're carrying the waves from
my beloved Jordan High School is the reason why I'm not in the NFL right now. You know how devastating it is for me to learn this?
Shout out to the Beat Diggers.
This is terrible, James. Can't believe it. All right. In all seriousness, I hope they figure it out for the 49ers. I hope they figure out the injury thing for every athlete everywhere, because it is just obnoxious when your team, even when other teams are like, oh, yeah, we don't have our best guys. And then even if you beat them, it's diminished. And the opposite fan base is just like, we didn't even have our guys.
Yeah.
I was having a conversation yesterday about BYU against Texas Tech and Utah against Texas Tech, right? Everyone in this state, regardless of who you root for, wishes you could get a mulligan on those games where your quarterback was hampered because you had running quarterbacks who couldn't run in those games against Texas Tech. And you don't want to take anything away from Texas Tech or offer any kind of excuse as to why you couldn't beat Texas Tech. But you also objectively can't look at those games and say it didn't affect the performances for either team. Bear Bachmeier on 1.5 legs is not what Bear Bachmeier should be. Devin Dampier on 1.5 legs is nowhere near what Devin Dampier could be. And if you had full-strength operations against a team even as good as Texas Tech, would the outcome have been different? Maybe not. Would the score have been different? Almost certainly yes. Whether you win it or not, who knows? But injuries are the absolute worst. Even if they're not season-ending, even if they're not like, you got to get this guy out of the game, it's not good.
See, I thought you were building up to the announcement that Argist is being retained, and promoted to strength and conditioning.
Yeah, what's called like director of football performance or something like that. Yeah, Greg Argist. Who was we'll take a break and we'll talk about this because it's a great example of how coaching, there's an authority attached to coaching that changes how people perceive you. And he's maybe the best example in my own life of it. So we'll get to that next on the Sean O'Connell Show, ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. All right, James mentioned this in our last segment here on the Sean O'Connell Show. Eric Weddle's going to join us in about 7 minutes, by the way. His reactions on the direction of Utah football under Morgan Scalley, the staff that Morgan has filled out, and all things Utah football. We'll also talk a little college football playoff and NFL playoffs with the Ute legend joining us in 7 or so minutes. You keep getting these announcements of players either re-signing their contracts with Utah, coaches being extended. I mean, Michigan just put out the announcement yesterday that Jim Harding has been officially hired as the offensive line coach. I imagine they were probably negotiating, getting paperwork done, and he finally officially signed the contract, so they put out the announcement.
Has Freddie even been officially announced?
I don't know. I'm not paying that much attention to what Michigan is doing, but it just happened. And the expectation was that when Doug Elisaya left and went to Michigan, again, he's a guy who's been the strength coach at the University of Utah since 2006. The expectation locally was that Greg Argist, who's a longtime assistant, would be elevated to the head of athletic performance for the football team. And I got to tell you, I'm overjoyed for Coach Argist. He is absolutely the man. He's been at Utah. I mean, you talk about Morgan Scalley being a Utah man and a like in his blood type Utah man. Argist has been there almost as long as Morgan has. Argist was there before Doug Elisaya was there. Elisaya was brought in as the lead assistant to Coach Johnson, who was only there for a year, between Urban Meyer's Matt Bayless strength program and Kyle Whittingham handing the reins to Doug Elisaya after 1 year with Coach Johnson. I believe his name is Randy Johnson, actually, if I'm not mistaken.
Is it really?
Not that one.
Watch out, Birds.
Not the 7-foot-tall pitcher.
Who kills birds with his fastball.
Yes.
Hall of Famer, too.
Coaching, I hope kids still feel this way about it. I really do. Kids, I mean the young men playing, because I imagine it's harder to maintain this dynamic than it ever was. But Argist was, you're a walk-on player in Urban Meyer's program. You're lifting at 5:30 a.m., okay? And Matt Bayless was an absolute lunatic who would come up with these insane workouts, and it was him, and then he had a couple of interns who were wandering the weight room, making sure that you were doing it and motivating you and screaming at you and doing your thing. And Argist was one of those guys, right? Now, I didn't realize this until many, many years later, because he's always been Coach Argist, right? He's literally like a year older than me. He's like a year and a half older than me. But he was a coach while I was a player, so it seemed like he was a decade older than me. He doesn't look that old. He's in great shape. But you just frame people differently in your mind when they're your coach. And I know that dynamic has shifted pretty drastically in pro and college sports these days, especially pro sports, where, like, you've got NFL head coaches in their 30s now. Who was it? McVay was, like, he was younger than, like, 3 guys on his team when he won the Super Bowl. Big Witt, the offensive tackle. I think Weddle, who when he came out of retirement, he's only a year and a half older than me. He's only a year and a half older than me or something.
It was like he was a lot older.
I think during spring ball or something, or maybe one of the media availabilities, it was like, hey, happy birthday. I was like, oh, how old are you now? And he's like, I'm 37. I was like, what? No, I'm 36. He's like, yeah.
You're like, no, you're 47.
Like,
what are you talking about?
You're 47. You're 10 years older than me. You were my coach yelling at me to finish the bench press rep. What are you talking about? But it's that like elevated position. It's that I have to look up to you, whether I want to or begrudgingly. And in this case, it sounds like he was one that you wanted to look up to. Yeah, no, he's a great dude.
But here's another great example of this. When Will Hardy was hired, he was as the Utah Jazz head coach. He was 35, youngest head coach in the NBA, one of if not the youngest in NBA history. Guess who else was 35 on the Utah Jazz?
Who would it have been?
Mike Conley.
Oh, yeah.
And what he did, Will Hardy made it a point to, as soon as he first as he met Mike Conley and had one of his first conversations with him, is to say, I'm young, you're old. We're both the same age. To try to play that psychological, hey, you're not old. You keep playing like you play. Like if we're the same age, how can you be old and I be young? That sort of thing. So that's something I think about a lot when we talk about this sort of thing, because it's like in the NBA, I think pro sports is a little bit different because sometimes coaches are a lot younger than the current players, but perception-wise, we do have this the coach is whatever age because that's whatever relatively that's old or young for a coach, and a player is whatever because that's relatively old or young for a player. It's no, you're both the same age.
I think I'm more ageist than most people.
Are you?
Because, and it's probably because I grew up in a very traditional household where authority was just kind of assumed. I'm your mom, I'm your dad, you listen to me, you do what I say. Because of that, aunts, uncles, grandparents, people older than you. My parents were always just that's your teacher, you do what they say, so everyone older than me, not in my same cohort, I'm talking about significantly older than me, I just have always attached authority to that. And I remember, throughout the course of my life, my career, it's always been really weird to me. The first time I got beat in a fight by someone younger than me, I was just what the heck? That shouldn't happen. I should be better than them because I've had more time in this. I'm older than them. You know what I mean? I think I'm more ageist than most people. I would have a hard time with a boss that was younger than me.
Right now you don't.
Right now,
for another hour you don't.
That's
you
right.
Don't. But now that you brought it up, how is that for you,
James? That's why during the show I'm probably easy for you to work with, and then as soon as the show ends, I become a complete jackass to you.
That's why.
Because I don't like having a boss younger than me. It's weird.
I just thought I'd address the elephant in the room.
When you find out that some guy younger than you is massively successful in your same field, you're just what? No. Noah Eagle drives me insane. Because he's 26 years old and already has the biggest jobs possible in broadcasting. I'm what the hell, dude?
Nepotism. No, he's incredible.
He's both, right?
Yeah, the being Ian Eagle's son certainly helps, but he's also incredible.
Right. Yeah. How many guys want to be the linebackers coach at the University of Michigan right now? And they're just oh, man, this kid who just started coaching 7 years ago got that job. I hate that. I'm older than him.
By the way,
am I the only one out here? Are you listening right now and nodding your head and saying, yeah, I'm also ageist? Or are you wow, this guy's a real age bigot? Let me know. 877-353-0700. A great example of someone that through this, this is a problem for me, or it used to be. It's weird. Our next guest, I look up to this person immensely. He's younger than me. Eric Weddle is far more accomplished in everything he's ever tried to do than I will ever be, and he's 2 years younger than me. It's weird. He just had a birthday, too. Maybe we'll sing to him. Eric Weddle next on the Sean O'Connell Show, ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. Sean O'Connell Show on ESPN 792.1 FM, and we welcome in the Utah football legend, NFL football legend, head coach of the Rancho Bernardo Broncos, and a man who had a recent birthday, Eric Weddle, on the show. E-Dub, a belated happy birthday. How are you, sir?
My brother, fantastic. Each year you can celebrate a birthday is a great day because the latter, we don't want to do that. We don't want to be a part of the ladder where you're not celebrating. So it's always a great day. I spent time with friends and family. Saw some great football. And no better. We got 5 straight days. This is probably the greatest 5-day stretch that we'll ever have with football, top-notch football games, Thursday to Monday. So excited as a fan. Our youths are alive and well. As a proud dad, my son just found out he's Max Press All-American, back-to-back. So, well, kudos to him. And good times, man. Good times.
Congratulations to Weddle the Younger. That's awesome. Glad to hear that. And to you as dad and coach, I guess you have some influence on it. Although the good genetics come from your lovely wife. All right.
No question.
All right. So this week, big week. Obviously, Morgan Scalley had his official introductory press conference. I'm sure you've had time to go back and listen to it. If you're out there in your car right now, you can find it at ESPN700sports.com or on the ESPN 700 app. We've got all 40-ish minutes of Morgan Scalley, the Q&A, and all of that. And look, no surprise to me. I'm sure no surprise to you. He absolutely won the press conference, showed his character, showed his emotion, showed how much this job and opportunity means to him. But what were your thoughts seeing your guy officially get handed the reins of the program?
Man, it was almost like a full circle moment for myself, seeing a man that has such an impact on my life, still does, and to see dreams come true, right? Like, to see someone that has worked so hard and to worked his way up, right? Talked about that in his press conference, having every role imaginable throughout the last, 18, 19 years of being a part of the program, and, the uncertainty of college coaching and his guidance and his beliefs that kept him centered and kept him who he is. And it's just awesome for people to see Morgan how we all know him as, right? Just the captivating personality, the charisma, the it factor, the passion. And it sure is exciting. I know everyone can feel it around Salt Lake, around the university. We're in good hands. He's been able to manage the uncertainty and the tough challenges that he had the last couple of weeks, and he looked us straight in the face and didn't quiver, didn't run, went right through it, and man, I'm excited. Good times.
Look, one of the great things about Morgan is that he is that dude. He's not going to be shy about taking on challenges, and I appreciated that in his press conference he mentioned and was just truthful about, hey, I don't like losing guys to the transfer portal. We've poured our effort and energy into these young men, and so it's painful to see them go, but we're going to be just fine, and that is kind of the main thing right now that him and his assistants have to deal with. You got to try to retain the good talent that you have. You got to try and add some more talent out of the transfer portal. They're already doing both of those things. And he delivered a message that you have been talking about for a couple of weeks now. We want people who want to be here. So John Hall re-signed, Scooby Davis re-signed, Jackson Benny made his announcement that he's coming back. And it feels like this roster is starting to take shape. Has anything jumped out to you?
Yeah, well, listen, we've been talking about it in the way the land is and the opportunities these kids have. Like, hey, if you feel that there's better opportunities and that we can provide that for you here at a fair value and appreciate and value what we can bring outside of the dollar signs, then, hey, good luck, and we'll find the next guy. That's the great thing about our program, that we can develop, we can nourishment, nourish the people that love our place and value what our program can bring. So I think everyone's seeing it firsthand of guys get in the portal unexpectedly. And hey, we just go after the next guy and the guys that will add value to our culture, to our program, and buy into what we're doing here. Because at the end of the day, there's players will come and go. The university will be there long after you and I were playing, or Morgan's the head coach, and this and that. So I love what he's doing. I love the staff that he's put together and assembled. Great men, experienced coaches, guys that are going to work and grind for him and the university, and more importantly, the players. And now you're seeing the right guys come into our program that want to be here. The guys that want to stay is awesome. So I think, I love Coach Witt, obviously, and anyone that thinks otherwise doesn't know me. But I think, honestly, I think we've upgraded. I think we've upgraded across the board. Lewis Powell, obviously, may take some time, but I think when you look at it and look at where we're going to be here in the next 6 months and then a years down the road, you look at this as being a moment in time where we upgraded and our program continued to build off what Coach Witt did in 20 years.
It's interesting to see the same reaction that we had a year ago when Jason Beck was hired. People were just like, oh, man, is this the right guy? And then, of course, he ended up being the right guy. And McGivern got that same treatment. A bunch of people, oh, this is a little underwhelming. But Morgan explained it, and I love when defensive guys talk about why they value certain offenses and offensive coaches. And I loved his explanation that, he makes it hard for you as a defensive coach to have to adjust to what he's doing. He's giving you all these crazy looks and motions, and that's part of what made Beck's offense really good. Do you expect that, even though it's a new coordinator and there'll be some new personnel, do you expect that the play calling will be relatively similar to what we saw this year?
Yeah, I mean, talking with Morgan, and Morgan had to reel me in because, I went on like a 5-day stretch of, trying to, I'm proud of my university and I love it. And I just want to remind people that we're going to be great and this place is amazing. And he's like, hey man, you gotta cool it down with all the stuff we're talking about. Like you're letting too much information out there. And I was like, all right, you're right. I gotta chill. Like I'm not in the media, so I gotta chill. So, I gotta pull back how much I say and whatnot nowadays. But, with what I can say, all the interviews he had with offense coordinators, he came away blown away and most impressed with what's his name again? The guy we just hired.
Kevin McGivern.
McGivern, sorry, yeah. And he paid in Utah State, and looking at his past offenses, I think we could be more explosive with more of a downfield passing attack that he has shown in his past. I mean, the explosive in the production that he got in the passing game at San Jose State is really what stood out. And being able to adapt and be creative and tailor your offense to the players of what they do best is, I think, a strength of his. And at the end of the day, like, and I said this multiple times, you have to trust Morgan and his decision and his vision for the program, okay? And nobody knows offenses better than Morgan. So if he feels and thinks and believes that this is what's best for our program, then I'm all on board and can't wait to see it, because I think you're going to see a more open, fluid, aggressive team moving forward. And you kind of got a little sense of that in the bowl game, and hopefully moving forward you'll see more of that.
Eric Weddle's our guest here on the Sean O'Connell Show, talking about the new direction of Utah football under the head coach Morgan Scalley. The assistant staff has been filled out on both sides of the ball. I keep hearing that we might get a quarterback coach still announced, because McGivern has worked with quarterbacks, but you don't have to be the coordinator and quarterbacks coach. There's plenty of room on the coaching roster to get people in those types of positions. Before anyone did, who was going to come in to coach the safeties, a position that you played, that Morgan played, and that is obviously massively important in this defense. And it's a former Ute, two-sport Ute, in fact, a guy who played here and coached here and coached you here. So tell the people why they should be excited about Coach Odom coming back.
Man, Coach Odom and I are close, obviously, over the years, and he was at San Jose State, and obviously coming by the school January and May and seeing Gage, and obviously keeping tabs on him, and so when he unfortunately got let go mid-season, we just kind of stayed in touch, and obviously a very, very I think of him in one of the highest regards as one of the best coaches I've had, and had a big impact on me of allowing me to grow as a player, as a leader, challenging me with what we do schematically and defensively, and really made it fun, and really gave me a leg up when I got into the NFL, just what he not just allowed me to do, but what he challenged me to do, because he trusted me and he knew I could handle it. And he saw something in me that I needed to be pushed, needed to be challenged. So when Morgan officially got, took over, I just threw his name out there. I said, hey, here's a guy, just, if you want to look into this, go right ahead. He's just stud. And he probably already knew anyways of the names of who we wanted to interview for that job. So a guy that knows our university, knows the standard, played here, coached here, one of the best men I know, leaders, brings value, and I think he'll be a great asset to Coach Swan of his transition to D coordinator, of a guy that's done it, who could bring ideas, can help support him. So, man, talk about putting together an all-star staff. I really believe that, and know Coach Odom's going to do everything he can to make our program great.
Jordan Gross is also back. You and I were texting about this as a possibility before it was officially announced, and obviously you were contemporaries in the NFL, like opposite sides of the ball. Give me your sense of his reputation in the NFL and how you think it translates when he's coaching this team.
Yeah, I mean, guys that have been around the game, that you just know, right? And I would say this: coaching at the high school level prepares you more for college or NFL than any other level, if I'm being honest, because you're having to teach and coach and nurture young men that most times have no business doing what you're trying to tell them to do, and you're still trying to find ways to make it work and try to make them successful on and off the field. So for people that are trying to negate the impact Jordan's going to have, doesn't have a clue. So we all know that Jordan's a superstar coach in the making, and the ones that know it, believe it, that we stand tall in it and say, hey, man, I believe in you. I know your history. I know the knowledge of the game. I know how you teach and coach and the fundamentals. I know how you are with kids. So it is a home run hire that we were able to get Jordan after losing probably the best O-line coach in the country. So, yeah, is he going to have things to figure out in recruiting, this and that? Yeah, but at the end of the day, the guy loves the university. He's going to work his tail off, and he's a professional, okay? So those three things can't be denied. And then couple with the talent and the charisma and the personality of coaching the position and owning the room and owning the magnitude of players, and just like that situation, like when players look at Jordan, they're seeing, holy smokes, this guy knows what he's talking about. He's a professional. He's an all-pro, okay? There's guys that just have it. So he's going to be incredible. I'm so excited for him and his family. And to watch our offensive line and offense as a whole continue our standard of being physical, nasty, control line of scrimmage, and he's going to continue that on, I have no doubts.
All right, I want to switch gears a little bit here to the NFL because the coaching carousel is a spinning, and it's doing so rapidly.
Oh, my God.
A quarter of the
opening, who would have thought? Holy smokes.
1/4 of the NFL is looking for coaches right now, including, a team you played for and had some great years with. And John Harbaugh spent 18 years as the head coach of the Baltimore Ravens. And if Tyler Loop makes a damn kick, then he's still the head coach of the Baltimore Ravens. But that's how thin the margins are in the National Football League. We'll start there. What was your reaction when you saw the news that Harbaugh was out, and what do you think the Ravens do next?
Man, I don't know what they're gonna do. There's not. I mean, Harbs is like, you're talking about continuity, you're talking about consistency, you're talking about leadership. I mean, a guy that is innovative and adapting, and I just don't know like who you're gonna find that's better. Who's out there? I don't know. Like, when. It's like how much can I say, right? It's like the unfortunate part, and it trickles down to the high school level and even earlier than that. Like you're allowing these kids to go wherever they want, to transfer, to seek out different things. Who's advising them? And the identity of football being a team sport and really working together and really like doing hard things and being coached hard, like those days are getting long gone. So when you're allowing players to have that power per se, and then it gets all the way to the top where you allow players to have massive input on coaches and coaching hires, that's what you're gonna get. So, man, I know he's gonna land on his feet, and I'm excited to see where he goes. But I think maybe a change was needed. Maybe, I don't know. But until you reel back in the culture and reel back in the standard of being a pro and what that entails for a lot of franchises, you're going to be mediocre, because the great ones, like I think of the Rams, and I think I look at their culture, and their one rule is be on time, and we not me, and I know it for a fact that that's how it is, right? Like everyone works out, everyone rehabs, everyone's on time for meeting, everyone's phones are away, and that is the culture, that is the standard, that is the leadership from the top down, right? And so I don't know if that's everywhere. You look at Mike Vrabel and what he brought to New England from a year to year, and his standard, he's got a standard, and I guarantee you everyone is known in that entire building that we're all on the same page. We do everything the right way, and I think that holds weight. And I think over the course of time that if you skip steps in the process, if you allow certain individuals to do their own thing and not do what is asked as the top-notch programs, you're going to suffer.
All right, someday there's going to be a phone call to Eric Weddle that, hey, we want you to come coach this NFL team, or we want you to be the GM of this NFL team. Let's pretend that happens today. Right after you hang up with me, hey, you got to choose one of these head coaching jobs. Ravens, Giants, Browns, Falcons, Dolphins, Cardinals, Titans, Raiders. Eric Weddle gets to be a head coach. Which one of these jobs? You can have any of them. Which one are you going to take?
Oh, man, if I'm a head coach or a GM, because that's two different.
Let's make you a head coach, because that's what you are now. You're a coach right now.
Okay. I would say if I was a GM, I'd say the Raiders, and I'd trade Crosby for multiple picks. I'd blow up the entire building and start over with multiple first-round picks over the next 3 years and give me 5 years to turn that program. So I think the Raiders have the most work, but have some ability to turn that thing around maybe within a year or two. As a head coach, oh my gosh, I think I would take the Giants. They got a good core. They got a stud quarterback. They really have some stability before the last few years with ownership and GM. I think Schoen is the GM has done. I think he's done a pretty good job and adding talent, and they got a really good defense. So I would think that's the most desirable out of all of them. Then you could, Miami would be a second, but I'm getting rid of Tua and starting over. So there's some things that he got to manage with that dead cap, and $99 million dead money if you cut him. So that hinders you for the next couple of years. So I don't know. I think the Giants are the most ready to make an impact right away.
What job will you be better at? Because these jobs are going to come your way eventually. Will you be a better GM or a better head coach?
Shoot, I mean, I think you're a little hyping me up a little too much, like saying how if I could even do those things, but
Don't do that.
I don't know.
Don't give me false humility. I don't like that. You're a genuine person. You believe you could be a GM in the NFL. You believe you could be a head coach in the NFL. Maybe not today, but I know Eric Weddle in his heart of hearts thinks he could do both of those jobs well.
Yes. Yes. Okay, you're right. I'm not gonna sit here and blow smoke. I do. Man, I think at this point in my life, like energy, I think I need to be in the around the guys. I need to be in the mix. I think I could have the most impact of leading and keeping the guys together in direction and leadership and keeping the main thing. So I think right now, 20 years from now, obviously I think it would be GM role just because I'm old but my eyes still work and I could put a good team together.
Okay. What we got playoff games this weekend in college football and the NFL. You mentioned it earlier. This is 5 straight days of absolutely glorious stuff.
Yeah, baby. Let's go pick 'em.
Starting with the college football playoff game tonight, Ole Miss is handicapped in every way you can be, and they're up against a really tough Miami team. How do you think that one goes?
Gosh, Miami is hot. They're like the NFL team that is riding like a 4-game winning streak into the playoffs, and they just go on a run like the Packers and the Giants and back in those Super Bowl runs. So I worry that and their D-line and just their defenses. Whew. But I want Ole Miss. I want Ole Miss. It's the story. It's to stick it to Lane Kiffin. It's awesome for those players. And I just think what greater story would it be if they end up winning the national championship and rub it in Lane's face? Like it's got the writing on the wall, right? Like I'm pulling for Ole Miss, and I think they'll pull it off, even though I think Miami is going to be an extremely tough out.
Indiana, Oregon.
I'm going Oregon. They lost by 10 at home. I think they're a much better team. I think they are playing at a high level. I know I'm probably an outlier. Indiana's dang good, man. They just shellacked Alabama, and it wasn't even close. So, guys, I think like people like myself are still saying, are they really that good? And they may be, and I could be totally wrong, but I think Oregon's going to pull off the upset.
All right, and then in the NFL weekend, Broncos are the number 1 seed. They get a bye. Seahawks are the NFC number 1 seed. They get a bye. Steelers, Texans. Who advances?
I got this. Oh, gosh, I can't say it.
Eric Weddle's picking the Steelers.
I don't know. Like, I go back and, like, gosh, the Texans are really good. I'm going the Texans.
All right.
Even though my heart says the Steelers, I'm going Texans.
All right. Houston is the 3-point favorite in that one. Jags, Bills.
I'm going Jags.
Wow.
Yeah.
Upset
Jags,
for you. Jags are the higher seed, but Buffalo's the favorite in that one. That's interesting. Why do you like the Jags over the Bills?
Man, they're playing really good football right now. Lawrence is playing at a high clip. I think it's like 15-1 over the last, like, throughout this winning streak, touchdown to interceptions. And when you're seeing the field, your quarterback's playing at a high level. You're at home. The defense, like, there's a lot to like about Jacksonville right now. Now, the unknown playoffs, first-time playoff coach. Bills have been there. They've done it. But I don't think the Bills are that good. And so I'm going to err on the side of the hot team at home.
Pats, Chargers.
I got the Patriots, but, man, I wouldn't be surprised if somehow the Chargers win with that defense. Jesse Minter probably be a head coach in this cycle if he wants it. I'm not sure if he wants it or not. But it's hard to go against Pats at home, night game. It's going to be like 10 degrees. Teams going across the country minus 40 are like 1-39, so it's not very good odds for the Chargers. But I want the Chargers, but I think the Pats are going to win. And, so, yeah, Pats.
All right, over in the NFC, Panthers, Rams. I already know who you're going to pick here.
Yeah, Rams all day. Even though it's not, Coach Evero was with LA for a number of years, knows how to defend Sean, so Sean's going to have to be on his game. They get Horn back, from which they didn't have the first time they played, who's an all-pro corner. They got a stud secondary. This game's going to be tight. So Rams, if they don't turn the ball over, they'll win the game. So that's basically what it comes down to. They should have won, but Stafford threw some bad picks, and he knows that. And he plays great. They win the game.
Eagles, Niners.
Unfortunately for your Niners, your season is done.
How dare you?
Man, I know that Seattle game meant so much because I think if they get the week off, they get a home game, and it all depends on matchups. I just think the Eagles is just a terrible matchup for them. The way your offense is and their defensive front, I think they're going to have a hard time putting up points, and the Eagles having a week of rest, they're going to be fresh. I just think I don't think it'll be close to. I'm sorry.
You love a good conspiracy theory like I do. What do you have you read anything about this Niners idea that their practice field is too close to that power substation and that is causing their soft tissues to break down?
Causing a bunch of injuries. Well, I don't want to debunk it, but there's definitely studies that have shown like Bluetooth and then those frequencies and that and the other like messes with you. So I don't know. I doubt it, but it's kind of interesting that it's that close. Like, I saw that post too. So I don't know how truth it is, but you can't. Maybe there's something to look into.
Yeah, you never know. All right, Bears, Packers.
I got the Packers. Packers, even though they're not playing good football, and Love's been kind of this year. I gotta think that the coach will put a good game plan together. They're proven every time they've been in the playoffs. They usually win one playoff game. So I like the Packers on the road. They're a divisional game. They know each other, and I'm not trusting the Bears yet. I think they're a year away. Been an amazing season, but their season's gonna be done.
All right, you can revise your picks when we talk to you next week, but before the playoffs even start, the Super Bowl matchup is who?
I got Rams. Gosh, I'm gonna go Rams. Gosh, can Jacksonville beat New England in New England is the question.
It's a big question.
Because that would be my pick because I don't think Denver's coming out. I think whoever plays Denver, winner of Jacksonville, New England. I got Rams, Jacksonville in the Super Bowl.
Woo! Jags all the way to the Super Bowl. It's a bold pick, but that's why we love him.
They might be one and done.
That's fine.
Both my picks. You never know.
Yeah.
Both crazy.
Yeah, you never know. Wow. That's what the playoffs are about. All right, dude, I always appreciate your time. Happy birthday, belated. Are you 40 or 41 now?
41, baby.
Oh, yeah.
41. Haven't hit my prime yet. Hey, I'm coming, man. The greatest year of my life will be this year, 2026.
Yeah, most likely. Thanks, dude. That's Eric Weddle, Utah football legend. He's got Jags Rams in the Super Bowl. Sean Jayaraja next to break down tonight's college football playoff game on the Sean O'Connell Show, ESPN 700, 92.1 FM. All right, college football playoff games tonight, tomorrow. You can listen right here on ESPN 700 Sports and on 92.1 FM. Shahan Jayaraja covers the college football world for CBS Sports. He's a friend of the program who is kind enough to once again lend us his expertise. Shahan, welcome back. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
It's always great to hear from you. So tonight you've got a weird underdog story that I never thought I would call Ole Miss like an underdog I rooted for, but given the fact that their coaching staff has been decimated by Lane Kiffin's move and the fact that these players have been abandoned, I find myself kind of hoping that they can pull this one off. It seems like nobody there in that coaching exchange really believed they were even going to beat Georgia. And now they have an opportunity to punch a ticket to the national championship game. Can Ole Miss do it, given what they're up against, not only with Miami, but with what they're missing from their own roster / coaching staff?
Yeah, I think they can. And, you look at this matchup against Miami, obviously it's going to be a really good one and a different kind of matchup, certainly, than the first couple of weeks that they've had. Because, the irony is that Ole Miss really hasn't faced a defensive line like they're going to see during their entire time in the SEC. But with that said, I think that there's a couple things that still work in their favor. One is, obviously the emergence of quarterback Trinidad Chambliss has been so huge for this team. He made huge plays down the stretch against Georgia and really has all season long. The other thing, too, is that I was really impressed, actually, with how much their defense has come together, including in that game against Georgia. If you think back to the first Georgia game, it was their defense that really collapsed down the stretch, I think allowing 19 points in the last quarter and a half. So, look, this is going to be a tough challenge, but certainly I don't think that there's anything about Miami that should scare Ole Miss away at this point. This is going to be a huge opportunity for them.
What is Miami's best chance here? They have great quarterback play. You mentioned that defensive line. Mario Cristobal, were those of us who spent time in the Pac-12 world, had some brushings with him when he was up at Oregon. What makes Miami most dangerous in this game in your mind?
Well, Miami, I said this even heading into the playoff. I feel like Miami might be the best trench team in the entire college football playoff. And in that game against Ohio State, they proved it. Of course, Ruben Bain and Akeem Mesidor on that defensive line are the headliners, but really their offensive line is kind of the unit that I think has been the biggest advantage for them in 2025. You think back to those last two games, they've been able to take them over with their running game, especially Mark Fletcher really being a breakout star for them. And, again, like you said with Carson Beck, when he's able to play in structure, he's really, really special. And that was something that at least for the first 2.5 quarters of that game against Ohio State, they were able to do in a big way. And so I think that this is a big opportunity for them. To me, they're the favorite heading into this matchup tonight. And if they're able to really control the trenches, like this is a team that absolutely can not only beat Ole Miss, but can beat anybody in their way as well.
It's not tonight, but it is tomorrow. Oregon, Indiana, we get a rematch from earlier in the year, and the Hoosiers looked really good in that one. Can Oregon turn the tides this time?
Yes, it's going to be a big opportunity for them. I think that Oregon is definitely playing better football than they were at that midseason point. But, this Indiana team right now is just, similarly playing kind of perfect football right now, right? You look at that game against Alabama where they're able to shut them down in essentially every single way. Oregon's going to be a lot better. Oregon creates a lot more advantages for themselves. But I think the big question for them is, can they create some explosives in the passing game? That was a huge issue in that first matchup. They lose 30-20, but by the way, 7 of those 20 points came on a pick six as well. I think their defense is going to have a decent time. It's really whether their offense, which obviously has tons and tons of talent, can stretch the field and make Indiana's job difficult. That wasn't able to happen in that first game. I think it'll happen more in the second game, but I still give the advantage to the Hoosiers.
All right, less fun to discuss, but equally important, maybe more important right now in the college football world. How is this DeMond Williams situation going to work out with Washington?
Yeah, this is fascinating. I think that, last year we had a situation with Xavier Lucas, a Wisconsin defensive back, who ultimately unenrolled and enrolled himself at Miami, even though he had signed a rev share contract. Well, that happened essentially during kind of, a gray area period, because technically the house case hadn't started as yet. This is going to be the first time that we have a truly high profile, sort of enforcement of this contract opportunity. And I think the other piece of it too is that, one, it's a quarterback. Two, it's Lane Kiffin and LSU allegedly involved in this. And three, I think that if you're Washington, you kind of have no choice but to try to challenge this. So I think this one's legitimately going to go all the way. I think that it could go to court. We'll kind of see what it looks like. Now, let's talk about sort of the different parts of this, right? From one perspective, I don't think that they're going to be able to prevent DeMond Williams from going to LSU. I imagine that there's going to be probably some sort of injunction to impact, some part of this contract. But I don't think that ultimately DeMond Williams is going to be prevented from going to LSU. I expect him to play this year. I think that also the court will determine that if he does, if he was forced to sit out, that would be irreparable harm. But the question is going to be this, okay? What is the timeline of all of this? The other piece would be, depending on the language in this contract in rev share and NIL, does Washington have some exclusive rights to compensate him? Does it impact LSU's ability to compensate him either internally or externally with outside NIL deals? That's going to be, I think, a huge question for this. And then long term, does this result in him having to pay some sort of damages or fines? The big thing is that when Wisconsin tried to enforce the Xavier Lucas situation, they went to Miami and basically tried to get them for tampering. Well, here's the question. Does Washington actually try to enforce it against DeMond Williams himself? Because he is the one who's breaking the contract. We haven't really seen an example at this point of a school going after an individual player, but this is probably as prime a situation as you're ever going to get to try it.
If the contracts are not enforceable, what are the implications for college football? If a guy can sign and 4 days later he can change his mind and he can go somewhere else, it feels like a kind of get off my lawn type of opinion, but also I genuinely don't know if these contracts don't actually mean anything, if they're not worth more than the paper they're printed on. I don't know what happens with college football after that.
No, I think it's completely unpalatable, to be frank. And the other thing, too, is that, there's obviously the perspective of, what if players can leave 2 days after they sign a new contract? But there's also the perspective of, then are universities just going to decide not to pay guys? And then on top of that, it sort of brings up this bigger question of then what is a cap if there are no contracts technically? What does that even mean necessarily? I think that it's a really existential situation, and I'm very curious to see how the courts deal with it. Now, I think the other piece of this as well is that, certainly there's sort of this short-term flexibility of the players that they're benefiting from. Long-term, it's going to be interesting to see, okay, but, let's say that this DeMond Williams thing happens and they say, well, you can't enforce this contract and everything is, all of this is built on on a house of cards and none of it's really real. I think that also if you're, a player advocate, you've also got to start asking yourself, okay, at what point does this become per se ridiculous enough that that Congress is spurred to act, or, the executive branch is spurred to act, and maybe you get a much worse deal than you would have gotten in the first place. This is kind of like the other piece of all of this. The reality is this, is that nobody at this point really has much incentive to work with each other. And again, here's the deal, right? It's there is no sport on the planet where players are perpetual free agents. That's not realistic. That's not how any of this works, right? And we're kind of reaching that moment in college athletics. And I do think that, again, this is going to be a blip as we try to figure out what's next. But certainly what exists now is not palatable.
Yeah, it's going to be very fascinating to see how this one works out and what kind of precedent it sets for the entire industry, for the entire sport. And I can't say that I'm feeling optimistic about it, but I am happy that we have real football to watch tonight, tomorrow, and all weekend. I didn't ask you about Indiana and Kurt Cignetti, so before I let you get out of here, I want to do that. This is a guy who's done an unbelievable job at the college level. His name has been attached to at least a couple NFL openings, although it doesn't seem like he's a prime candidate for those, and it does appear that Indiana is prepared to do whatever it takes to incentivize him to stay. Do you think Kurt Cignetti is really considering NFL jobs, or are NFL jobs really considering Kurt Cignetti?
I mean, I think the NFL opportunities would be smart to kick the tires on him, but I think that Kurt Cignetti is very much a college football coach. And the other thing, too, that you at least have to consider with the NFL is, obviously you flip over guys every 1, 2, 3 years. But, I think that also, his age does start to become a factor when you're talking about somebody entering the NFL for the first time. I don't believe that he has any NFL experience to this point unless he had something very, very early in his career. And so, you'd really be thrusting him into a brand new context at 66. And, I think that certainly he is a good enough coach that you consider it. But if you're the NFL and if you're Kurt Cignetti, I don't know, it just makes a lot more sense to stay where you're at. He had the opportunity to go to any number of blue chip programs this season. I mean, he could have had, LSU or Penn State or Michigan or any of these jobs if he really wanted them. He decided to stay at Indiana, and he'll be compensated very well for doing so. So I don't necessarily think that there's much of a realistic chance that he'll consider those outside opportunities. But there are only 32 of those NFL jobs, and certainly if you're Kurt Cignetti, and let's say you win a national championship this year, maybe you kind of say, all right, well, I did that. Maybe there's something else to try.
Well, we'll see how it plays out. I can't believe we're getting this close to the end of this college football season. Shahan, I appreciate your time again today. Hopefully we'll talk again before that national championship game.
Sounds good. Thanks for having me.
National College Football Insider over at CBS Sports, Shahan Jayaraja, one of the best in the business. All right, we have Brian Regan tickets to give away. We'll do that next. But a reminder, you heard Eric Weddle say it. This is an unbelievable weekend set up for college football, for pro football, playoff games, elimination games, incredible significance to all of these. And let's be honest, you probably don't want to watch them just at home by yourself. Big Willie's has the answer for you. 1717 South Main, an incredible food menu, an incredible drink menu. There's a drink discount every single day. They run a drink special every single day, and they keep the alcohol anywhere from $4 to $5 on the daily special, which is an incredible price. If you don't imbibe, I don't drink, doesn't matter. Big Willie's is the right place to go to enjoy the food, enjoy the atmosphere, shoot some pool between the games, and they've got a bunch of big flat screen TVs. They've got a jukebox, and it's a great atmosphere and a great vibe for you. You'll find some people that are rooting for the opposite team. You'll find some people that are rooting for the same team. Go down to Big Willie's, have a little bit of fun. Tell them that OC sent you at 1717 South Main, Utah's #1 sports bar, Utah's #1 pool hall, and the best bar food menu you're going to find in this state. I can promise you that. One last segment with Brian Regan, tickets to give away. He's coming to the Delta Center on Valentine's Day. I'll have a trivia question for you next on ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. All right, Brian Regan tickets, a pair of them, at the Delta Center, February 14th. If you could tell me which NFL franchise managed to get all the way through the 2025 football season without intercepting a single pass. An homage to Gordy Chiesa, who joined us for an hour in studio today. 877-353-0700. Which NFL team failed to intercept a pass in 2025, becoming the first team since they began tracking the stat in 1933 to go an entire year without even accidentally intercepting an opposing quarterback? It is a bananas failure.
Can I offer a hint?
Yeah.
This same franchise, their leading receiver went for less than 400 yards this year and didn't catch a ball after week 6.
Is that good?
It's not good.
Oh.
It's not good. But I feel like this trivia question is a personal shot at me.
It's not. It's an homage to Gordy,
okay,
who brought this up on the show today when he came in studio for an hour. You can hear it all on ESPN700sports.com or in the on-demand section of the ESPN 700 app. Spence Checketts, that's his voice. He's on the drive next, starting in 3 minutes and going all the way until 6 p.m. Yeoman's work.
5:30 today, college football playoff.
Oh, that's right.
Got a game on the station tonight.
Spence and Porter will podcast that extra half hour just so you can listen.
We will not do that.
Oh.
You had on our guy Shahan Jayaraja. We had him on during Big 12 Media Day.
Yes.
And it reminded me of something that I need to bring back from Big 12 Media Day because I'm watching the CFP coverage this morning.
Uh-huh.
I'm just as, if not better looking than Brock Osweiler.
Why are we doing this?
Well, because we never really came to a consensus.
No, we all came to a consensus.
No, consensus means everybody. And I'm watching Brock on the dais. I'm like, I remember our guy. Okay, rolling up Big 12 Media Day like he's this big head honcho hotshot.
Correct.
And I'm measuring him up and down. I'm like, all right, first of all, I could probably take him. Second of all, I'm at least as good looking as Brock Osweiler.
I'm sure there are people who think that.
Yeah, there is me.
Yeah.
You do not?
I think that there's people who believes that.
Has Scott Mitchell ever dreamt about Brock Osweiler naked? I don't think so.
Almost certainly, yes.
Right.
Another 6'7+" quarterback. Yeah. Okay.
No, just watching the coverage, and I just, all this radio shtick that we do. I remember just bringing that to the table, and you were shocked that I had the gall to say that out loud.
I mean, I don't know. You're not my cup of tea, but neither is Brock. So
okay, fair enough.
That's probably unfair of me to make a judgment.
I would just hope you could look at it in an unbiased way, because it felt like you were being biased towards the fact that he's 6'7" and a former college quarterback.
I think he's actually 6'8".
Okay,
so
well, I'm a good 5'11" on a good day. I'm tall enough to put 6 foot on dating apps, and nobody blinks.
Which of you weighs more than 200 pounds? That's the real question.
I know. And since I'm never going to weigh over 200 pounds, you are never going to respect me as a person.
Oh, I respect you as a child.
Okay, that's what okay. Well, children are people too.
Exactly. I love kids.
I am
as a fellow adult.
Okay.
Sorry.
All right. Well, fair enough. I don't mind that. I don't ever want to grow up. I want to be the Peter Pan of sports talk radio.
That's great.
I'm all in on Ole Miss, man.
Yeah, it's weird because I never, ever, ever thought I would look at any SEC team in like a national competitive scenario and be like, those are the underdogs for me. That's the tread upon, I feel sorry for you franchise today. Yeah,
and I find I don't usually cheer. I mean, I cheer for our local teams because it's better for our business. But when it comes to this stuff, I'm like, let's just get a good game. I am like, for some reason, all in on seeing these kids just stick it to their, not just their former head coach. There's like 5 coaches that have left, and it's a skeleton crew. I don't. You think they can get it done? Like, truly, do you think they have a legitimate shot?
I do think they could win this game.
Okay.
I think it's going to be tough, but I also then what happens? Then the play caller who's here and it's the running backs coach or something, and Charlie Weiss Jr. Then they say, hey, we got to stick around for another 11 days. Lane, he's not going to allow that, which means they'll go into a national championship game with no offensive coordinator.
Do you think there's a shot? I know that he's a vapid human. I know that he's dead inside. You can just tell when he talks, and I'm talking about Lane Kiffin. I know he has no empathy or grace or anything other than just being a cutthroat competitor. If they're playing for a national championship, is there any chance he's like, you guys go do that? We'll handle things around here for a while.
I don't think so.
Oh, that sucks. That'll make me cheer for him even more.
it's insane. I actually went down the rabbit hole of reading some of the message board stuff, the anecdotal stories. Now that he's vacated Oxford, people like their encounters with Lane Kiffin and the yoga studio, and like some of these things are hilarious. And they're just like, oh no, he's like a sociopath. He only cares about football. He doesn't care about anything else.
Yeah.
He can't interact with human beings. And my biggest gripe with him, aside from all of that, is that I hate how he moves his hand when he talks.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And it's just like, oh yeah, you're a football android in a human shell.
Yeah.
You're that when the Man in Black, when the giant cockroach puts on the skin suit.
Yeah. Oh, perfect.
That's him.
That's perfect.
He's Edgar, but for football.
Al Davis warned us years ago. It's like, this dude's a con artist. He conned me. He's going to con you.
Yeah. So
You know,
it would be great to see the young men on that team be able to stick it to him forever by winning something. I mean, they already have, in my opinion, to some extent, but to win a national championship and for him to be like, well, I went to LSU to win a national championship.
Yeah. It'd be awesome. I find myself first of all, I think it's going to be a good game. A lot of money that's has come in on Ole Miss. And Miami, offensively hasn't been great. But Miami's defensive line reminds me of Tech's defensive line. They're lunatics. They're big, like crazy athletes.
Yeah. The Bain guy, Reuben Bain.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
He's like Aaron Donald, where he doesn't have a belly on him.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, oh, that guy looks like he weighs about 240 pounds. And it's like, no, that guy weighs 280 pounds. And he has a six-pack.
Yeah, like 8% body fat.
That's terrifying.
Yeah, if Ole Miss can somehow, protect the Chambliss kid, maybe they got a shot. I don't know. I find myself pretty giddy cheering for them tonight. But tonight's the start of what should be 5 straight days of really good football games, which will be nice to actually watch games instead of focus on the chaos surrounding the sport.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. By the way, I asked Shahan Jayaraja about Damon Williams. His agent has separated himself.
Dropped him.
From just like, we have philosophical differences. You know how scummy you got to be to get an agent to be like, I can't handle this.
Yeah, no, they are. I can tell you from personal experience, they're the worst of the worst. And if you are dropped by an agent, and I actually applaud the move because as more information is coming out, it's like this kid went somewhat rogue with some bad advice from somebody in his inner circle. And, of course, it is Lane Kiffin who's in his ear saying you're worth more than $4 million, and we've got 5 or 6 for you down here. Beat the horse, even though it has been dead for a while. You have to let them unionize. You have to let them collectively bargain. And all of the red tape that people bring up can absolutely be traversed. There's a reason why these contracts that are signed by professionals have to be honored, because there's a players' union and then there's a board of governors that collectively bargain for the betterment of the sport. And therefore, you have to honor the contract that you've signed. I mean, Trevor Lawrence is making more money than Josh Allen right now. It's not because Trevor Lawrence is better than Josh Allen, just the timing of Trevor's contract lined up. And once Josh resigns next, he'll make more. It's cyclical. It's how this works. You can't sign a deal and then suddenly somebody else that you think is your peer is making $2 million more, and you go back to the team and say, I need to be paid like that. That's not how it works. So,
but right now it is how it works, which is bananas.
But my solution has been the same for 5 years. As soon as I saw this coming, okay, if we're going to do the pro model thing, lean into it, get it done, and we're seeing the collateral damage of dragging your heels with that stuff.
I don't know how you unionize 1,300 people from different conferences. It's going to be very, very complicated. I don't disagree with you. You have to collectively bargain, but you're not going to collectively bargain until a single super conference or 2 super conferences exist, and it's just those, whatever that is, 350 guys instead of 1,300.
No, that's the model. I'm not saying everybody. I'm saying you've got to go grab the 40 to 50 programs you think are worth it, and then just go do your own thing. I know that sounds cold-hearted, calculated, and maybe a capitalist mentality, but that's the deal. That's where we're at. And then you got to figure out a way to maintain the ties to the university because, of course, the athletic departments need revenue too. I'm not saying it's simple, but look, what's happening right now is not working. So go do the work and make sure the sport has more guardrails than it has right now, which is like 0.
Yeah. It's fun. Well, I'm sure just like yesterday, there will be more transfer portal news when I sign off and Spence signs on, and then somebody will have re-signed at Utah and somebody will have entered their name into the transfer portal. So Make sure you stay tuned for The Drive. Thanks for listening to the Sean O'Connell Show. We'll do it again tomorrow on ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM.